In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. And we're going to receive public comments at the regular meeting later this evening. So the first thing we're doing is to be considered the library construction grant. And Julie from the library is going to give us a short presentation on what their plans and what their thinking are over there. Any questions from anybody?
Not yet.
Julie, so the floor is yours. Let everyone know who you are.
Julie, I was gonna say pick a man.
Let me think of where to stand.
Come stand over here.
Okay. I'm Julie Morello. I'm the director of the library, and I'm here to talk to you about the library construction grant. If you would for a second just go back to November 7th, 2017, you might recall that that was when the library construction bond was actually voted on. And then 2 years went by and nothing really happened, except a lot happened at our library because we were making plans as to how we would use that money. And then in November of 2019, the state finally came up with regulations, and on January 6th, the grant application just came out. So, while we were waiting for 2 years for the grant regulations to come out, we looked at what we needed to do in our library. And we saw a lot of problems with overcrowding in the children's room especially. And here, did you all get these handouts? Okay.
Yes.
Because we have pictures of, well, my favorite one is, you'll notice the one with the cups. This is actually a very sad story of sabotage. This is a STEM program that we were having in our children's room. And the kids were building structures with cups and popsicle sticks. And they had so little room that they were bumping into each other and accusing one another of purposely sabotaging their projects. So that's one thing we want to prevent. But here we have children, older, well, teens really, studying in the picture book room because there's nowhere for them to sit after school. And if you've ever been to the library after school, you will see that it's packed. There's not a place to sit. We have a story time in the picture book room where the caregivers and children, if they stay a little longer, they're sitting on the floor and you have to step over them to get to the picture books. We have in the art gallery, we have an after-school book club, and our children's librarian is conducting the book club right in the middle of the art gallery, surrounded by other teens and adults studying. And then we have a very popular Read to Dogs program on Monday nights, and it takes place right on the library floor, and you have to step over the dog and the child who's reading to the dog to get to the books that are there. So what we really wanted to do with the grant money was to just expand. We're not talking about expanding our footprint. There's nowhere for us to go. We just want to rearrange the space that we already have. And we have, next to the children's area, I don't know how familiar you are with the library, and if you're not, I would love to arrange to give you all a tour of the library so you can see what I'm talking about. It would make so much more sense to you if you saw it. But we have what was once our reference area, and you know how we do reference has really changed. And that's empty space right next to the children's room. And we'd really like to incorporate that into the children's room so we could have, turn the picture book room into a maker space and then have a program area so that, you know, the children can have programs without books in the way. We're also converting our friends' room into a meeting room. A lot of that has already been done. We've removed the books from the area. That wouldn't require any change in square footage, but we want to build an audio-visual closet and get basically better technology for the room. And what we did, once the grant application came out on January 6th, we wanted more current information about what Tenafly residents wanted because we started these plans, again, 2 years ago. So we put up a survey, we put it on our website, and we distributed it within the library, asking Tenafly residents what they wanted, what kind of space changes they would like. And most of them did respond that they would like a larger children's room and a youth area away from quiet study space. And between those two answers, you have almost half of the respondents. Again, after school, there's this constant tug of war between traditional library users and teens and children who walk over from the schools. And we really like having the kids come after school, and we want to accommodate both of them. And the new plans would have them on separate sides of the library. The teens would have an area where the children's room is now, and the children would have more space there. And it would allow for quiet study to be on one side of the library and teens on the other. And that's what we hope to do. And the total plan would be $800,000, and with the grants, we would ask for $400,000.
You just, you have on this first page here some metrics about the number of people who visited in 2019 and 2018 and the growth.
Yes.
Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yes. So what's been happening, and you know, circulation stuff, the way people use the library is changing. People aren't coming to the library to check out books. I mean, they still are, but that's not their primary, that's not the library's primary function anymore. And that's why the grant was developed, to enable libraries to change to meet 21st century needs. So people are coming to use to attend programs, to take classes. The library is now more of a community center than a warehouse of books. And you can see that in the fact that our number of visits are growing and the growth in program attendance, which from last year to this year, it's astounding. Even I was surprised to see how much growth in attendance there's been.
And have you started to fill out that grant application?
No, I haven't, but we do have an architect that we're working with we've been working with him all along, and he's going to help us with that. But first we need to know, exactly what kind, if we have support from the borough.
And just timing of the grant, when it has to be submitted and when you'd hear back?
So they're accepting applications between March 6th and April 9th, and they're going to notify recipients of the award in June.
Lauren?
Okay. Julie, I love the idea of renovating the library. I'm there every other week with my kids. I love our children's librarian. I was there yesterday. So, ideally, it's a wonderful project, but let's talk finances. So the library receives a statutory amount from the borough every year.
Mhm.
How much of that statutory amount is going towards this project?
That's something that I haven't been authorized by the board to allot a certain amount towards the project, because the 1/3 mil is not generally used for capital projects.
Do you generate surplus out of the $1.3 million given to the library?
No.
Uh,
I mean, there was 1 year when we did, I think back in 2016, before I started here, but generally, no, we do not generate surplus.
And currently, as the accounts stand, is there any account with any surplus in the library that could possibly help this in this grant?
We do have a capital plan that could possibly be used towards it, yes. I mean, a capital account.
Do you have a sense of how much that would be?
It has $100,000 in it, but we have other problems with the building that might not be covered by this grant. And that's why we have that money put aside.
Well, one of the things in our experience that we see when we apply as the municipality for grants is they look to see what other sources of funding are there. And so they will obviously, I think, ask those types of questions in this grant process.
Mhm.
Omar and I, both of us, are going to watch this webinar to learn more about the grant and to see if we came up, and I'm not, obviously hasn't been discussed at all, but if the municipality was able to only come up with a portion of that,
Mhm.
of that amount, our budget looks like it's going to be pretty tight this year.
Mhm.
Is the library going to do any fundraising or any other sources to get that kind of money?
Yeah, first of all, we're starting, we've been working on a foundation, but that takes a couple of years, so that won't be ready in time for the grant. Although they are doing a second round of grants, but I don't know when that's going to be. The other thing is the Tenafly Library Friends are doing fundraisers. They're starting with one in April, just to kind of get their feet wet, and then they're going to do more in the future. So yeah, that's something that we plan on increasing.
Go ahead.
Julie, do you know when they're gonna award the grants, or how
June
long?
2020.
Oh, June 2020, but
Yeah.
how long after do you have to use the grant money? Like, there's a certain time when you have to do the project. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay.
Of the 800,000, how much of that is for the renovations on the interior versus the exterior of the building?
That does not count the exterior, because I believe I was waiting for estimates from the borough engineer on that.
So the 800 is just for the interior
The
renovation?
interior,
Okay.
the last estimate I had from my architect for the exterior would be 100 to 150,000 for the exterior. But again, we left off that it
The
really
borough's
is up
gonna look
to
at those,
the
huh?
borough has to come back with those figures.
So I had gotten a chance to review what you sent and you're presenting now. Is there any way to know how many of the growth, how many people are Tenafly residents versus, because I know it's a popular regional library, and I just was wondering if you had a way of knowing that to some extent.
So you mean in terms of program attendance?
Yeah, or people using the library. No way, really?
That I don't know for sure. The survey I did filter to Tenafly
Tenafly
responses
only.
from Tenafly
Okay.
residents, but in terms of program attendance, I don't know if our children's.
I mean, I can tell you anecdotally, I would say for kids, if I'm being very, very conservative, I would say 75 to 80% Tenafly, and with about 20 outside. That's being a huge conservative estimate. It's probably more like closer to 90% Tenafly. We do get people from outside of town, And if it is, it generally is Bergenfield, Cresskill, or Englewood. So we are talking about our community slightly expanded.
Sure.
So, do you know the utilization rate for the canvas room? Day and evening and weekend? Because, and that's what it was originally built for, was programmatic space.
We have a hard time, like, the McCandless room is not always available when we need it. In fact, it often is not. You know, people think that the library has control of the McCandless room, and we have to fill out permits just like everyone else. And they have classes going on, especially in the afternoon when we have the kids after school. So the McCandless room is really not a viable option a lot of the time, especially when we need it the most.
All right, so can you be a little more specific? When you say a lot of the time, are you talking about 50% time, 90%
I
time?
would need to ask the recreation
Right.
department for, their.
Because we might, be able to work out some of these scheduling issues. That's part of what can be done, is to try and figure out that we're making sure we're utilizing the spaces we have to the greatest degree possible and coordinating that a little better possibly.
A little bit of paint might go a
Go
long
ahead,
way
Lauren.
in that room. I want to say to the library board, since you're all here, the 125th display for the library is wonderful, so thank you for doing that. It is our library is celebrating its 125th right now. Has anybody looked into historical grants or anything in the cultural and arts that would not necessarily just be for library, but the fact that you're 125 years old?
No, because, right now we've been focusing on the building project, but yeah, that's definitely something we could look into in terms of funding historical programs.
Jeff, do you know anything?
So we have a historical program coming up with what's the
More
Yeah,
questions?
Alice Rigney
Alice
she's
Rigney
doing
is
it
providing
for
it.
free.
Right. Used to be the town historian, so,
Mhm.
and she's presenting a program for our 123rd anniversary.
Vanu, you have a question?
Yeah, just a technical question, and you may not know the answer to this, but the stucco that we have on the outside of the building, is that called EIFS?
Yes.
And I think there were lawsuits and stuff like that,
Yes.
and so
Really?
is there? Yeah, so it's been a problem for the past 20 years
Mhm.
apparently, and so anything can we petition anyone for that?
I actually looked into that, and no, because it's hard to win an EFS lawsuit because so many, who are you going to blame, the manufacturer? Or it's also the way it was mixed. There are so many, there are so many, you can point the finger in so many different directions that it's kind of, it's really hard to do.
But I understand that there may have been some kind of litigation on it, and maybe there's a class action type thing that we could collect from, or on the
Maybe
other
Bill
side.
knows something about
I mean,
that.
oh, yeah, that's true.
I know there were many EFS suits,
Yeah.
and I think there might have been a class action suit, but to have filed a claim, I think was a long time ago.
But the other thing, I guess, is insurance. Does insurance?
Insurance wouldn't cover that.
Wouldn't cover that.
No.
So I don't know, Mr. Mayor, is there a question?
You have a question?
No, I'm asking, actually, so is there something that we were looking to take share thoughts or decision on
Well,
tonight?
so
What's
I think the
authority?
issue is whether she should go ahead and start doing this grant, but I think we have to have further discussion on this probably in a work session.
Which is
Understand.
engineers and probably the whole
Because we
amount
have-
would have to be appropriated, all 800,000, because you don't know when you're gonna get the grant money.
Right.
And Omar and I were gonna watch the there's a webinar on the actual grant application that we wanted. Well, it happened, we couldn't get into it, it was a whole long story. That happened, but we have a discussion to watch it and make sure that we can fit even in the grant application.
Sorry, just.
Dan.
Sorry.
I'll let Dan speak.
So
Go
in
ahead,
your
Dan.
circle of librarians, like Buckles and stuff, do you know if other libraries are going for this grant?
Yes, most of them
Everyone is.
Like
It's the
Englewood
fir-
has
that's the
already
first year back.
secured $2.5 million from the city of Englewood, so they're going to try to get another $2.5 million from the grant. Ridgewood has gotten up to 2 million. So they were planning to do a $7 million renovation. But just about,
Shouldn't
yeah,
stop
just
us
about
from
all.
doing
No,
it.
no,
No, competitiveness wise.
So it sounds, any other questions
Just-
on this?
Just a
Go
question
ahead.
for Susan, just from my understanding. You mentioned you have to put the full 800 in the allocation, appropriation, but that's not, so I've heard a lot of great ideas of part is grant, part is private donation, part is, let's sue somebody, or like find some money from insurance. I think these are all great ideas that we could look at. Regardless, there's not a way to say, I'm making up a number. The council, the municipal budget's willing to put $200,000 in there as long as you could find the other 600 from anything else.
Can't be done like that, unfortunately.
Paid up front.
No, because we don't know where we're gonna get the money, we don't know how much we're gonna get, and then if you have to
But it
lay
would
out
be
the
contingent upon doing the deal is to make sure you raise the funds and get the grant and.
That's why I was asking you if you have to use the grant money by a certain date, so. Too, and when they're gonna
Put
give
it all
it,
up
because if they're not
I
gonna
would
give
never do
it,
that.
we have to talk to the engineers, we have to,
So-
find out the all-in cost.
So it's,
and-
go ahead, Lauren. Go ahead.
So I think also what would help is if the library board made decisions on any sources of funding that they can add to it and let us know on that. So if the library board wants to possibly use its surplus, possibly use part of its surplus, possibly consider other sources of funding and can contribute to that, we'll know better, we'll have a better financial picture of what we can then put forth in addition.
Because we're at least guaranteed that.
Well,
So here's what I think we should do. I think there's a lot of homework to be done on this, right? For instance, the details on the grant, the whole issue of where the $800,000 number came up from. We have to have the borough engineers look at that. Maybe the number should really be $1 million, maybe it should be 600,000, right? So perhaps we put this on the next work session agenda, if everyone agrees,
Yes.
right? That doesn't
Will the
mess up
library be
your
ready
grant
to
application.
answer any of that stuff?
But in the mean,
Do we
Well, so in
need-
other words,
One other thing.
go ahead,
I was gonna say, in the meantime, Shama's the library liaison.
Right.
I was gonna step in,
let's do that.
but I think she's coming back this week, so you'll either get myself or Shama, if you wouldn't mind making a meeting and just
And
following
that's
up.
fine, because you know what the questions are, and now we need to do the homework together, okay? And again, I'm gonna repeat myself, but waiting another 2 weeks isn't gonna make a problem for the grant application, right?
Should I talk to the borough engineer?
Well, they're coming in, we're gonna be making,
Right.
maybe she should be invited to that meeting.
Right, so communicate
Yeah.
with Susan,
Okay.
all right?
Yeah.
Don't talk to the borough engineer directly, because then that starts to get confusing with different people, so, and Susan will coordinate that, and then with Lauren and Shama, okay? We'll start getting these questions answered.
Not tomorrow, the next one.
Okay.
We gotta watch that thing.
All right,
We
anything
gotta
else?
watch our 1 minute.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Grants last as long as they need to run, right? Bill? Grants last
All right,
as
the
long as
next
they need
is
to
the
Put in.
spend them.
opioid litigation. Guys, ready?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, but when I said
You have to do it right now.
We
Lauren,
can get the money.
Getting the money.
ready? Opioid litigation.
Right. Certain grants have deadlines that you have to
Spend the money by.
spend money by a certain time.
Professor Bill, would he, would we,
You want to talk?
opioid,
Yeah, let's talk about it quickly.
Proud to,
When can we discuss?
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the meeting.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you. I don't know, I spoke to I go to like opioid, second on my.
see you Thursday, Joel. You have to take your old mention.
Joel, thank you.
I'm there.
All right, let's get,
This one.
Liz, thank you.
It depends, it's,
okay, next item on the agenda is opioid litigation. So who put this on?
Adam.
I did, and I got great help from Bill. I don't know, Bill, if you want to just
Yeah,
share.
we looked into, I looked into the litigation and the claims. I don't think it's really appropriate for us. I checked with our first responders, and I think in the 3 years or 4 years that I asked for coverage, we used it 3 or 4 times in several years. So we're not really looking for reimbursement. I don't think that, it's worth expending our time.
So the whole purpose of this is reimbursement?
Reimbursement, and if
for our
you've used,
expenses?
if you
Yeah.
used Narcan, in
It's a
your
class action
municipality,
lawsuit. So-
they give you training, reimbursement for what you spent on it. If your officers need training, and as far as the chief was concerned, we really haven't used it
So I agree with
much.
Bill. So first, Bill, thank you for doing the research on it. It was an opportunity. It doesn't sound like it's as appropriate for Tenafly, so I think.
Anybody have any questions about it? No?
No, and let's hope we don't have to keep using it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
Okay, we have a request for qualifications, Labor Council, Grants Consultant, Borough Engineer, and Special Projects Engineer. You put that in there, Susan?
I didn't put it in.
Omar did?
Omar put it in.
Sorry, okay.
It's okay.
So, anybody have any questions about this?
So Susan, did the stuff that I had discussed with you, did that make it into the RFQ for the labor?
I did not read it yet.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Banu,
So if
yes.
you want me to read it, I'll read
No,
it
no, no.
tomorrow.
Banu?
So, the grants consultant is based on what? How are we doing this?
That's it.
Okay. Lizette wrote the RFQ,
Right.
and I haven't had time to read the RFQ.
Okay, so the
So I thought
question.
you guys read it,
No,
so.
no, no.
We did read it. It wasn't,
Okay.
it wasn't written in there.
But the
Okay.
point is where, the question is whether we're going to do what we were talking about the last meeting about having it as a single amount per month versus for, as a percentage of the,
Okay, we'll have to
So
look
this,
into that.
so this RFQ actually asks for vendors' pricing, right? In other words, for the
Different
vendors to
grant
present it, but we can certainly add 2 lines that say present your pricing in 2 ways, as a percentage, as a piece of the action, or as a flat fee.
Right.
Right? I think.
or as a hybrid.
A blend.
As a right.
I will tell you, I went to, when we were down in Atlantic City, I went to that session, and then I spoke to the guy who presented afterwards. Again, this is just one point of view, but he's part of the Association of Grant Writers of America, whatever the number is. He actually said, like, the association says it's not, his words were, no real grant writer does it as a percentage, which was just very interesting. So it was just a point of view that one professional grant writer said, but I thought it was worth sharing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would just think that that's out of professional interest, kind of, he would want to maximize how much they would get
No, I would think,
the other way.
I would have thought the other way around, which is there's a much big, if you had confidence in yourself, why wouldn't you take a piece of the action?
Right.
He's saying, no, it's unethical,
Yeah.
we have a job, just like the DPW has a job and the police have a job. I think that lowers their ability, which was, again, why it was so interesting to me.
Laura?
Got it.
I'm sorry, wait, I had something on Labor Council, so do you want to finish up the grants first, and then I'll move on to labor?
Anyone have any more grants questions?
And I just want to let you know, in Park Ridge, I had to do an analysis for different grant writers, and I did get different things about the grant writers. One wanted a monthly fee, one wanted the percentage, and there was another one, I don't remember which one that one was, but they did put in proposals in all different methods of payment.
So I think the council would like to see the different options. That doesn't mean they're gonna choose any one of the options, right? Which the proposal is very clear that we wanna reject anything, we can reject anything for any reason. So let's put the, the request for different options.
But I guess we should also look at best practices
Yep.
in terms of if it's ethical or not ethical.
Well, yeah, we have to do that, but I know
Both
that
are ethical.
the one that they took was the one who did it on a percentage. But I don't know, it was hard for them to even get a grant in Park Ridge. Some areas get more grants than other areas, right? We're not an urban area where there's hundreds of grants that we get.
Right, so we
So
get
we're
a smaller.
limited to the amount of grants we're gonna get.
A smaller section of the pie.
24?
Yes, Jeff?
So on the grant consultant, I know we don't have any ordinance at this point. Is there a particular amount of time that's for? Is it for 1 year? Is it for project based or?
Well,
Because that's not
like-
clear in the.
I would put, I think it should be third term. We could put that in, it should be.
It should be
Can't
for a term, right,
Yeah,
the
it's a
borough engineer
professional
is for 3
service,
terms,
yeah.
It shouldn't be 3 years.
No, I would do 1 year.
Yeah,
One
one
year.
year professional service.
Thinking it like that.
Okay.
Because what if you do it by the month, and they're charging you $4,000 a month, and you don't get any grants, you're gonna feel that that's a waste of money, right?
Yep.
It's
So
everything
you don't want it
restricted.
to go on.
Take
Yep.
your offense off.
longer.
Yeah.
All right, one at a time. I'll get confused. Okay. Lauren, you had questions about Labor Council?
I do. I would actually like to make a change to something here, but I'm gonna throw it out the table. So it does say respondent must have significant experience representing New Jersey municipalities as Labor Council. I'd like to take that out. I think that's too narrow of a pool for Labor Council. I think that somebody who does not just represent municipalities might be an appropriate person, might be a good manager here for our HR issues, and I think that's just too restrictive. Well, we could say preferred, but I don't think it should say must have.
I would
So,
prefer
responded.
all the union stuff.
Go ahead, Dan, what?
But I
It
read
makes
you-
more sense because all the Jersey quirks,
But then
union
we're-
stuff,
You're
So what do you mean, so what argument are you taking?
opposite.
Oh.
So you're significantly limiting
Just
though
to be
your
clear.
pool. Because I did union work on a management side, not,
New
New
Jersey?
Jersey, not New Jersey PERC, but I'm saying, I'm still have peers that would be an excellent choice for this position. They just didn't do New Jersey labor contracts.
No, I
Doesn't
would-
mean they can't do New Jersey labor contracts.
No, because then you don't have the history comes with. Oh, I saw this in Jersey. I saw this in Jersey.
But they
Like,
do a ton of other employment work in New Jersey.
I still prefer Jersey. Jersey's weird.
I tend to agree with Dan.
As a must or a preferred?
Must.
Well, must, I guess we look at somebody else, we would look at somebody else.
I would look at somebody else.
But I think experience representing municipalities or other public agencies
That's fine.
is a great benefit because there are some unique boards of education, towns, agencies, because we do have quirks that are unique to
Jersey
public entities.
So then, Omar,
Oh,
sorry,
yes.
we're gonna make a change to the language, if anyone else wanna weigh in on it?
Go ahead, what is it?
What's the change?
So Bill proposed a change to the language.
Well, I said that
It says,
having experience representing public entities, New Jersey public entities, is preferred.
NJ.
so instead of.
So instead of municipalities, it's public entities and it's the preferred respondent
You
somehow.
can say,
Preferred.
right, or you can say such as municipalities, boards of education.
Right.
Right.
I'm fine.
Broader.
Agents.
All right, one at a
Just
time,
gonna
I
get too-
can't hear.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine with me.
One at a time, that's reasonable.
Yelling at the table already?
Public entities.
New Jersey
I would-
public entities.
Yeah, New Jersey public entities.
Or New Jersey
Okay.
public entities.
Public
But,
entities.
does anyone else wanna weigh in on the must versus the preferred?
I think Omar has a question.
Okay, so due to the timing of the RFQ and, receiving respondents, do you want to move forward and put this on the consent agenda, and then we'll make the changes to the RFQ, and then we'll advertise it?
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah.
move forward?
Let's get it out.
I'd like to get it out as
You
soon as
wanna,
possible.
As soon as
so,
possible? Okay.
let me ask the question another way, is, do you wanna send it out knowing that these changes are going in, or do you need to see it again at another council
We
meeting?
trust the organ.
As long as we know that the changes are going in, I think it's fine.
What's that called?
I think the must.
Jeff?
Substantial
Well,
change.
I was gonna suggest instead of must,
Well,
respondent
that's
ought to
ordinances.
have significant experience, rather than must, and then we can, when we see who responds,
Make it a judgment.
make
True, we
the
can,
judgment.
I mean, we're in control of turning.
So that's why instead of must have significant, just ought to have significant experience representing them, we'll see the degree to which they have it.
I-
If they
I
have
just don't-
none, that's a big factor.
Right.
I just don't wanna limit our pool too much.
Fair
on
enough.
this.
So how about we do this, Omar will make the edits to this, share it with myself, Jeff, I'll pass it through you to make sure I catch everything. And then once you and I decide that everything the council wants is included, then we'll send it out. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So then we can put that on the consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
24K.
Thank you.
The consent
What
agenda.
did it actually
Yes.
say?
Exactly.
Three quarters pay.
Um,
We'll have to add
Anyone-
Any other
it.
changes?
Well, the engineer I wanted to ask,
No, on that one.
That's
that's,
what
I
it
mean,
charges
the
us,
engineer,
20K.
All right,
to the engineer one, I would like to add somewhere in here some sort of management experience over other employees. I don't think that's as obvious here.
Say that one more time. For the
I,
engineer?
for the borough engineer, we need,
No,
well,
they're not gonna manage employees anymore.
okay, fine.
Right, exactly.
I was thinking of DPW director, my bad, sorry,
So we're
forget
okay?
it, we're fine, never mind, yep,
okay, so we're done with the RFQ?
yes.
Okay,
Thank you to Lizette for putting, you said Lizette put it
Yeah,
together?
was that the
that's
one?
good.
Thank you to Lizette.
So I have a question. The next item on the agenda is the administrator's report, but Mark Slauson is here. Do you want to go into close now to do that? Tom, were you here for any other particular?
Yes, I have something else I'd like to bring up.
Wait.
As I left this up to go to a fire call, so
Pardon me?
as I'd gone to a fire call and came back, otherwise.
Okay, good.
I'd like to hold on that, cause I think I'd like a council discussion on that before we bring him in.
That's fine. You want to go into closed session, then have a conversation?
Yes,
Do you wanna do that, I mean,
whatever,
or just go through the rest of the work session? Do we have a lot of work session with that?
don't have that much.
Just good.
I take it back, I have a lot in the good of the order, never mind.
You wanna do your thing?
I
That's
do.
the only thing is we're gonna order that.
Omar has a good idea.
But outside of that, I think
Yeah.
we can fly through the administrative report.
So you want to do the administrator's report first?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to do the administrator's report first.
Okay.
Only if we can talk about Wi-Fi access.
I could do mine first.
Is this one you want, this copy?
Well, was that, yeah, no.
This is about the fireworks.
Do we have borough-wide Wi-Fi?
Thanks.
They wanna put little hots.
Okay,
Our
so
computers don't work, our internet doesn't work.
I'm fine.
quotes
Yeah,
were
mine's fine.
obtained from the international fireworks, and the recommendation is for Saturday, June 27th, with a rain date of Sunday, June 28th, and that is the same day as the townwide picnic. So basically, we would need to know if you're in agreement with that date. And the cost, let's see, so your $15,000 program was selected, which provided 800 and, I don't know what 8,455 shots. This year for that price, if selected, there will be a total of 9,140 shots. So, we need an answer from the governing body as to if that's a good date, and if you wanna proceed with this.
Is everyone good with that date?
Yes.
They were booked on the second, which is the other one.
So we have consensus
Yeah,
to
you
do
really
that?
don't have a choice.
Yeah, right, so we're
Okay.
about
Lying
to.
today.
Okay, let me have that small copy.
Sorry,
This mayor knows what he's doing.
yes, okay, yeah, I got that, that's right. Okay, so we'll make this pretty quick. Well, we closed the books, this past week. We rolled into 2020. As you know, the temporary budget was adopted. We're still paying some, invoices from last year. We'll probably do that until March. Our numbers for the 2020 budget are being entered into the financial software system. Our operating costs are pretty much near done. We still have a lot of salary and wages that are outstanding because everybody's out of contract. The capital needs to be compiled because, otherwise we won't have a plan adopted until May 7th, when the budget's gonna be approved and adopted. If we want to do any capital project before May 7th, we have to do a capital temporary budget. So that's why we really need to get going with the engineers, because there's things like the trailers for the TVAC and other items that we may want to do before that date. We can't spend any money until about 20 days after the capital plan is adopted. So we're talking near the end of May. So that's important. And then there's a new procedure or regulation that has to take place the first year that we had to enter in our 2019 budget into this financial automation tracking system that with the state. You're laughing. You know, there's a lot of glitches in these programs.
What do you
Our
want, year
budget.
3? What do you want, your 4th year now?
No, this is the first year we had to do the budget. We've done
They delayed it 3
annual
years.
statements and things like that.
Did we do
Um,
paper last year?
Well, no,
this
this
is
is
a
a
state
different
program.
system, yeah. So the annual debt statement was it's due actually the end of this week, and it has been submitted to the division, and it's been certified by me as of yesterday. There was also a proposed budget hearing schedule. I would just look at the dates to see if everybody's okay with those dates. As the departments, you know, I have to find out if these dates are good for the governing body
I
and
can't
the
make-
mayor.
I can't make Saturday the 14th.
Saturday the
I
14th.
know.
Okay, so that's the thing, that's what I need to know, because,
I need it.
you know, then we'll go out to the departments,
And then I
so,
can't do, the Tuesday, the
3rd.
or the 3rd.
okay,
I'm in
so.
California that week.
We need more Saturday, more
All
February.
right, so we're gonna have to, see,
Can
we
we
cannot
start-
have these meetings, just so you know, on the same night of our other meetings. So,
We have more February and less March.
we really can't do more February, because we're not gonna have, I'm hoping to have some of these contracts done, so that we can get the actual salaries into the budget.
What about Thursday evenings? Can anybody make, do we,
Yeah,
we want
Or
Thursdays?
Thursday's better, if you could throw out some dates.
What date? What are you proposing?
the
March
27th?
5th? Oh, wait, you're in California that whole week.
All right,
Yeah,
the
I'm
27th is cutting it a
February.
little close, because we're looking to the 27th of
Of
February.
February?
So just
27th of
the
February?
2 days before the 29th of February, which you already have.
I could do that.
And then,
Is that a Saturday?
Omar, is
It's
there
a
any,
Thursday.
does any meetings that day?
Oh, so it's Thursday.
I have to have the calendar in front of me to
Oh.
see.
Jeff, how about
Saturday's
you?
the
Yeah,
best.
we need to check that. They'll make any
Just
day
sit here all
work.
day, get it
Could
all
be on
done.
Thursdays,
One
there
shot.
can be other
Boom, 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 boom,
committees.
boom.
Yeah,
Wednesday is
Right.
planning board, Tuesday is council.
What meets on Thursdays?
Thursdays, historic preservation,
HPC.
access for all,
Yeah,
have met
that's-
on Thursdays.
All right.
I was
But you
trying
know
to
what,
not go
if
to
I have to
Yeah.
forgo
it's nice to
those,
spread
this will take.
It's also a possibility everyone won't be able to get to every meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
I was wondering,
Well,
how do you?
We should
We'll
aim,
try.
we should aim.
We'll try.
All right, so,
Let's
So
see if we can do
Thursday
the
the
27th.
They have to be
27th, Jeff, you
available
wanna-
too.
Omar,
Yeah.
What?
I'll make
It's-
it.
it's a
does
schedule.
you
Okay,
wanna
so-
check if there's any other meetings on the 27th?
okay, so tentatively, we're gonna replace Tuesday,
Tuesday.
March 3rd, and we're gonna move it to Thursday, February 27th.
How about the week of the 9th, 10th, 9th, March 9th through March 13th? Anyone
So
around?
the 10th, we have a council
But
meeting.
we're also
Yes.
doing Saturday the 29th then?
We
Yes.
are.
We are.
How about the 12th, which is
Another Thursday.
another Thursday?
What's the conflict on that? Like, we
I
can't
can
do
do
the
it.
14th, or what's what we can't
So you
do?
wanna remove the Saturday, the 14th?
I prefer
and
the
do it on
14th.
Thursday?
All right, you know, if I'm the only one who can't make the 14th, let me see if I can switch something around, but just then keep the 14th, but do you wanna have the
Yeah.
12th and then the 14th, instead of making it all the way into the 24th?
No, the
Is that too rushed?
24th is a council meeting, and that's when we would invite Paul Lurch and the bond.
Okay.
It's just 1
Casey.
hour,
Yeah.
24th.
And they go through everything we decide and they go,
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's start
So
with-
March 3rd is going to February 27th.
Yes.
Yes.
And the other day is staying,
Yeah.
Saturday, March 14th.
I'm gonna have to get something to switch around on that day, that's a disaster though. Okay.
Okay, so this is your time.
Yeah,
Somebody has a question?
No.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
we're all
you.
And
good.
then-
Go ahead, continue.
And then, okay, so I met with Bob Caputo and a couple of individuals from his staff. And what we found is that there's these data access points. That's one of them, I didn't know what they were. And they're located throughout several areas within the borough. So they know we have spotty access or
Within the
no
borough,
access.
like our town?
No, within the borough hall.
Yeah, in the
Borough
borough
hall.
hall.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and what happens is, you know, you could, like my office doesn't have good access. They said that they would have to expand by installing more of these data points. And also the network switching board in the wiring closet has no more ports left. So
That's
it-
expensive.
Yes, so that would be expensive to get another unit to
Yeah.
put more ports
These are
in.
only
How much? Okay, well,
Look, whatever it is,
So-
I can't come to the council meetings and have for $100,000 IT shared contract, my internet not working. So whatever this is, it has to get.
well, that's because they didn't put all these
The
data access points.
the building is not wired properly.
It's
I
not.
get
That's what
that,
we're gonna
I'm
get,
saying.
we're gonna get a price on it and figure out what's the right thing to do.
Exactly, so they're gonna provide us with a detailed list of where the access points need to go, and then we'll get the estimate, and then we'll decide, you know, if, what we wanna do. You guys will have to decide that.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Yeah. You done with that?
I'm done.
We were,
So, go ahead, question?
well, Venu and I have been asking all last year for a possible designated IT person. Whether it becomes a designated person that sits over there in the IT world through our schools, or a separate and distinct outside IT person. But this isn't working for us.
Right.
You know, we hear from our employees that they want better service. They're not getting they call up for a helpline, they can't even get the response. None of us can get in, well,
So let's put that on the agenda for it to be considered next council meeting, we can have that conversation.
So it
I
was,
mean, not to be considered, yes,
so
right?
it was, so it was brought up at joint use
Right.
under the shared contract, whether we were gonna sign it again. And so Adam, that's something that you'll take the charge of now,
Yep.
that you're on joint use.
Okay, so add it to the agenda for next to be considered. The Fistus Pond, next item, I'm just gonna address that, instead of Susan, because whether or not we do that project is to be determined, and is to be determined based on what the costs are gonna be. I brought down pictures of Fistus Pond, so everyone can see what it looks like in the Four Seasons here. I went up for a tour of the Nature Center to see all this conversation about this road we have to build. So I wanna see where the road has to be. And the road has to physically come off of Montami's driveway to get to the pond itself. So the first step in this process, even if we decide this isn't going to be done, but in order to ascertain what the accurate construction cost is, we have to know we have written permission from Montami to actually build the road there off their driveway and use it. Because if we go through our plans and say, okay, the number is gonna be X, and we show up with the bulldozer, and they're like, what are you doing here? It doesn't make any sense. So the first thing we're gonna do is, and Susan is working with Andrew McKesh at the TNC to get a written letter from Montami to say they agree to this. And then we can go on to the next step. But that's the first part of the program, yes.
So I went to the TNC meeting, and there was discussion about not having to go through that back end to come forward straight through down essentially the center of their pathways. Do you know if when you spoke with Andrew, or anybody who spoke to Andrew recently, if that's changed?
So
They were exploring both options.
I'm not sure why they would do that. So when I took a tour there, the road that you would build off Montami is maybe 400 feet. And there's a little bit of a steep driveway you have to come down. You have to come down at an angle. You'd probably build it out of shale. If you built this road from the parking lot on Hudson, and by the way, maybe you would have to take down about 10 or 15 trees. None of them old growth. They're trees that are about this big, okay? Because the large ones are physically separate. If you do it from Hudson Avenue, I don't know, that's probably a half a mile trek through the woods.
It's significantly lower.
The cost of that road would be pretty expensive, so we want,
And obtrusive.
right, we want to try to do this the easiest, most efficient way first, you know, and then also I think Montami is, you know, they would like to help us out as long as it works for everyone. So, more to come on that.
Thank you for that.
So just quick,
course.
Montami Drive is not public, that's a private road?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Because if we're talking to them about access, that would only be if that's not a public road.
That's a good question. That's part of what we're talking about here, is trying to figure out what's what.
Okay.
You've raised a very valid point. If that's a public road, that becomes infinitely easier. The question becomes, is that on, in other words, is that then the strip of land theirs, or is it ours? Because you're right, if it's a public road, but let's see, right. Okay.
And that's the dividing line between boroughs.
All right.
Montami Drive? So, yeah.
Montami Drive, yeah.
Yeah.
Correspondence? We've got a letter here from a resident.
So Mark, I drove by this property, and I had a question about process. So I see that the letter is addressed to us, but originally the tree in question was rejected for removal by the DPW. So I was wondering first, is there a way of this resident appealing it to the DPW? And why did the DPW decide not? And I didn't know why it was coming to us.
So this is the appeal process, so I went to the property also. So you go up the driveway, there's 2 trees to the left of the driveway. The DPW approved one to be taken down. Don't quote me on this, I think because it was already
was
dead.
sick, right, yeah.
The second tree is right there with the acorns coming down on the cars, and it's starting to lift the driveway up. The third large tree is in the center of the lawn, just east of the driveway, which the resident is saying, fine, she'll leave it there, you know,
right.
that sort of thing. So this is the appeals process. She
This
wants
is
to the
the
DPW, and so she's asking for relief from that, and the council has to decide if they want to do it, and if they give relief, maybe perhaps she plants another tree in the backyard or 2 trees to make up for it.
So then my further question about this was then, is the DPW's policy to be like, no, you can't cut down any healthy tree, or was there a particular reason why they said no initially?
So it's not the DPW policy, it's the policy of the governing body who wrote the ordinances to protect trees. The DPW is just, they're following through on the policy with their rules and regulations, right? So they're in execution mode. So you decided that, your colleagues decided that here at the table. So in order to appeal the decision of the DPW, which is how it was set up, this is the appeal process.
Okay.
And
Anyone know
then the
the
judgment.
ordinance? Sorry, what's the ordinance number for that?
Pardon me?
I wanted to pull up the tree ordinance, anyone know the ordinance
That
number?
I don't know.
I wanted to pull it up.
It's under trees.
Oh, it is under trees,
Yeah.
chapter, trees, so I'm gonna pull up the ordinance, so we can look at it.
The reason I'm asking is, it appeared as a rather large tree, and I didn't know if maybe there was some flooding issues or something that could come about if it was removed. So I wanted to
The residents saying
explore.
that the acorns, the driveway, the pulling up the driveway and supposed damage to the cars.
So I can't get my internet to open, or else I'd read you this, but 26-1.9 is protection of existing trees, but again, can't get it to open.
Your internet's out, Ross?
Go ahead,
My
Vinod.
internet
while
never
she's
works.
searching. Vinod.
We don't have the
Here we go, here we
DPW
go.
rejection
Right.
letter, right?
Correct, we need to see that.
The rejection
No, we
letter.
don't have it, I mean, I know,
That's
I
trust
got
me,
it now.
verify, but she was rejected, I know they went to
No,
visit.
no, but I mean to see the reason and why,
It
because it seems strange that they would
It
just
goes
reject
in
it for no reason.
As a general rule, the DPW is going to reject a tree being taken down unless it's dying, it's dead, it's dangerous. It just doesn't, that's.
No, but if it's causing buckling of the driveway,
then it
that
becomes-
you
then
can
it
say
becomes
it's
a gray
dangerous. So then the question is,
Right.
did they take that into account and when they rejected it, what did they say?
And they took that into account and they rejected it, it becomes a gray area now.
Do you want me to read this?
Go ahead.
The letter.
Okay, so
The
our
abbreviated
statute
version.
says, let's see, just going. No person shall cut down or remove any tree except as permitted by the section, or allow or cause such cutting and removal. But it doesn't say why. In the event of any tree to be saved, it doesn't give conditions, hold on. Protection of landmark trees, this, I would think, is this a landmark tree?
I don't know.
It looked about,
I
we
wouldn't
looked
think
on
so.
pretty significant.
That's a big tree.
Landmark tree would have to have been designated.
Designated, okay,
And I don't think we've designated those.
okay.
I don't know if the council wants as a compromise, if you decide to let her take down the tree, the other side of that is plant more trees somewhere.
That would
Can
be
we
my.
see can we see the letter of the rejection, I think is what,
You wanna see the letter of rejection from the DPW?
If
Sure.
they lay out any
Of course.
reasons, we might not know.
I like that idea.
They're probably just going to say.
Oh,
that
we
there
just
was-
rejected
it's- It's a
it.
healthy tree and.
That's what he's gonna say, yeah.
And there's no, I can't, let you cut it down.
Do you know-
Because there's nothing that, satisfies the ordinance.
Do you know if there's an option to cut back branches so that they don't overhang the driveway?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't.
I'd like to.
It wouldn't help the roots of the buckling and everything that we saw.
I went and looked at the tree. I mean,
So do you wanna put this to the next, to be considered while we do a little more homework? We'll get a copy of the, rejection letter from the DPW to the council members, so they can see it, okay? And ask the question about whether there's an option to cut branches of the DPW. All right. Any questions about the resolutions?
Yes. Sorry, I do. The bills list, and I had sent an email earlier today, so last year, so our newest members know, we spent money to fix the HVAC system within Borough Hall. We designated significant funds because our HVAC was put, basically, wasn't working. And now on this, so my question is, there's a significant amount of money being spent on the HVAC, and I wanna know, does that come out of the money we already spent, or is that in addition to?
In addition.
So
And I
can
don't
we
know
go
if
through
we
some of
fixed the
this?
HVAC system, just so you know.
So,
So
can I
what's happening
interject
on
something,
this?
Lauren? You
Yeah.
may wanna hear this. The
Yeah.
the HVAC system in this building is a deteriorating problem that is not gonna be fixed with a $30,000 or $40,000 every 6-month repair.
Didn't we put in a big chunk last year?
I think
Yes,
we
we
did,
did.
but I don't
We
know if
did.
we did anything
To
to
fix
fix
the whole
anything.
system.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we're starting to talk about,
Mhm.
so the state has grants where, the replacement cost of an HVAC system is paid for by the difference between what you're paying now and the energy savings that you will be paying.
Mhm.
And the state actually guarantees that it won't, so it's a net, no cost to the borough. Because the
Right.
only amount of money we're paying per month is what we save in the energy cost. So we're starting to look into that. We don't know whether that will actually cover internal controls or just condenser units on the roof. But we're also going to bring in the engineer to start talking about what's really going on here, and are we just throwing good money after bad?
I mean,
'Cause-
we're hemorrhaging money on
Right.
this system.
We're hemorrhaging money
This
on
is
it.
not,
Right.
this is
It's
not
crazy.
acceptable.
So,
So in the meantime, while we investigate, can we put a halt into spending money on this system?
I don't think you can do that.
you'll have things that won't work.
Yeah.
Literally, you won't be able to turn on heat.
Like you remember what happened.
Like heat.
Yeah.
I've been in
Yeah.
Susan's office without heat.
But we
Um,
understand, we're not, in other words, nothing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, we're not replacing, optional things. It's not working, we can't turn it on, we need to do switch.
Mhm.
So while
So all
we're,
the controls
it's the
are
controls
not
of the
good.
system,
Yep.
Do you know if we'll be able to deduct that later?
but from our taxes,
No, from, get money back for the repairs made this year?
I don't know the answer to that question, because the question would become, who would be the vendor doing this? That has to go out to bid.
Mhm.
And I think one of the problems is they said they had no plans to see everything, but I think IT might have plans for this.
All right,
Ooh,
well, then
we'll
we
have to
need to
get that.
investigate,
Yeah.
because this is a significant amount on our bill list. And again,
It's very big.
It's
That's why we
very
had to go
big.
out to bid.
Yep.
and this is, if it's not coming out of the budget line item that we already gave to this, then this is not okay.
Closed session for right now, or you wanna wait until?
Answer our question?
Yeah.
Anything else?
How about you?
It's like another 30.
So any questions, any more questions on the resolutions? No? How about any questions on the minutes? Okay, so if the council approves, I'm gonna suggest we go into closed session to talk with Mark Slauson. So, Tom, yeah, we're gonna talk to you first if they give me permission. Are you guys good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Tom, do you want public comment? We're gonna move that up in this
Okay,
section.
thank you. Tom Giordano, 12 George Street. Could you please pass these out? I'm here for a problem with a brook behind my house.
Behind the what?
Behind my house.
The brook?
There's a brook, it's drainage, it's,
What's the
flooding
address
pro-
again?
What's that?
The address again?
I live at 12 George Street, and it runs behind my house, it runs under the stores, the whole, with these papers, I made a copy. The first paragraph was in the borough newsletter a while back. The thing is, it doesn't say who you report the problem to. If a stream or brook is dammed up due to no maintenance with that.
Okay.
So it's backing up.
Yes, it's backing up, yes, so all the leaves, just debris, nobody's throwing anything in the brook.
Nobody's-
It just backs up the rain, the leaves, and the storm drains with that.
So I'm gonna say something. About 2 weeks ago, the Department of Environmental Protection came in here to visit me. I had some things to discuss with them. And one of the things we talked about was de-snagging waterways in the borough. And they've actually sent me documents in writing that I can share with Omar to distribute. And essentially what happens is, if the borough or a resident decides to de-snag a waterway, as long as you're not out there with backhoes and you're not digging up sediment and dirt, and you're truly taking out leaves and sticks and branches and things like that, we have the ability to do that, and the resident also has the ability to do
But
that.
according to this, the resident's required to do it, according to the borough ordinance. And my question is, if there's a problem on one of my neighbor's property that the water would back up and either flood or have mosquitoes breed in the summer, who do I come in the borough hall and report the problem to?
Is the stream on your property, or you share it with your neighbor?
The stream's on my property, but the blockage isn't on my property. It's either a resident, or it's a business, or it's a church, or it could be the town, because they rent part of the parking lot. I don't know what the rental agreement says, who's responsible.
Is this along Dean also?
No, well, eventually it comes in, but this is a Franklin Street parking lot across from the Elks.
Because we had this issue on Dean last year, and we had to get the county
think
actually
so.
to come in and
Yeah.
clean
Possible.
that, all the
Well,
debris out
the
there.
Dean Drive feeds into this drainage thing with
Right.
that. But it just said, I don't know who I would go to.
Okay, I think we're gonna, the first thing is code enforcement. And, go ahead.
Problem, I went there, they said it's not their responsibility.
Okay, so tell you
Building
what,
department told me they don't do that.
let's make a note of this, Omar.
That's why I'm here.
And, Tom, can you give Omar your contact information?
Sure.
Okay, and then we're gonna look into it, and then we'll, either Susan or Omar will be in touch with you, and we'll try to figure it out.
And speaking about that brook, and that brook goes underneath West Clinton Avenue.
Right.
And it's, in the summer, the water doesn't flow, it's all debris under the street, it's black. Even
Okay.
though there's a grate trying to keep the debris out, it still gets through no matter how hard they try. And I'm saying the summer, the water just sits there and there's mosquitoes.
Okay,
And that brook eventually feeds into the Tennakill, and this Tennakill needs to be dredged.
Yes.
According to,
yes,
I mean, whether you get, I know they did the Demarest Pond, I think last summer, whether there's a grant from the state or the county, but
yeah,
this needs, because it's mosquitoes, the water just sits there.
it just sits there,
Okay,
where we're,
thank you.
okay.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
We're gonna go into a closed session for about 30 minutes, and then we're gonna reopen again.
We're only going to do the
One issue.
the one issue?
That's correct, the one issue.
Right.
So do you wanna read the closed
Yeah,
session?
I'll do that. Resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the mayor and council will go into closed executive session to discuss a personnel matter involving the teen center that's indicated on
Thanks very
our
much.
agenda as item B2. Minutes will be taken of this meeting and released to the public.
Good to see you, Tom.
Thank you.
Matters resolved. After this closed executive session, the mayor and council reconvene in this Richard D. Wilson building to resume the work session.
I move that we
Motion.
go into
Motion,
closed
please.
session. I move that we go into closed session.
Second?
All in favor?
Hi.
For the good of the order,
Can you live on that?
Okay.
People live on that?
so for the good of the order, you know, the first item is road paving priorities. Councilman Grossman.
I'm sorry, I'm having some problems
Is this the
with my
last one?
electronics.
There you go.
No. I mean, oh, you know what, Jeff? It's, the light's not on, so put it back in here, and then hit the corner button,
Got
and now try.
I know, I don't.
You're not ready?
No, I don't need my notes.
Okay.
So, we're coming up to the time, the Riverside Co-op is going to need to know how many miles of roadway we're doing. And based on the miles of roadway is going to determine how much asphalt, which determines the cost. And if we wanna have the paving start the way we have early in the year, we have basically till mid-February to make all of this happen. So that's not a lot of weeks from now. We do have the red roads that were given to us by Mazer. And we should start to put high priority into selecting.
Lauren?
So I'm gonna throw a little wrench. So Mark and I met with Suez, and we're allowed to discuss this now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Suez actually is gonna throw a little bit of a wrench in, I just wanna go to my notes on this meeting, a little bit of a wrench on our road program. Suez is now starting a program to sample the service lines in between the main water lines in the street and the homeowner's property. There's smaller pipes that run to each individual house on our municipal property. So Suez supposedly has a study of where the lead lines are. They won't give it to us. The Board of Public Utilities gave us Suez's study last year. It doesn't identify our service lines. So instead of knowing which ones should be ripped up and which roads we should hold off not paving, they're gonna come in and they're gonna sample 21 random spots that we can help pick in our road program. So if we take our red list and we pick 21 roads, they're gonna come in, rip up some of those roads, and those roads should not be chosen for our paving. Next year, and for the next 7 years, they're going to do this. So we could choose a red road to pave, but Suez the following year, which didn't get to it this year, next year will say, oh, we need to spot test it. And now all of a sudden that red road, which has now been beautifully new paved, is about to get
But
patchwork.
I assume it's smaller and they're responsible for bringing it back to the same level it was before.
It's not small.
No, they're
It's the
responsible
length-
for patching it.
It's not small.
So the first, can I just make a comment on the testing? The testing takes place on the grassy area between the curb and the sidewalk. Okay, so they don't test in the road itself.
Right down the center.
Right, they go on the grass, so they're not gonna wreck the road. So then what happens is, if it turns out that the testing comes back positive, the lead level's too high, then they go in and replace, the line from the water main in the center of the road to the curb. Okay, then it's the homeowner's responsibility after that. It's a whole separate issue. So that's when the road, and then they would do that for every house on the street.
The gooseneck.
So if you
Pardon me?
find,
The gooseneck.
It's called
Correct.
gooseneck.
right, so if you find one service line, let's say right here, River Edge Road, you find one, they are going to do the entirety of the road, and each one would be a patch
Correct.
in the road. And it's not a small patch, the service line is about the width of the road across. So if you think of what our road would look like after they, God forbid, find a lead line, it's gonna be pretty bad. So we have to figure out two priorities in doing Jeff's project on the road priorities. One, what are the 21 roads we want tested? And I would behoove us to pick the roads with the longest, most residents to get those out of the way as, longest ones. Or two, ones that we know we wanna pave in the future, get those tested now so that next year those could be our co-op paving.
That makes sense.
So we have to figure this out.
And we have about 2 weeks.
We have about 2 weeks to figure this out. They are going to do this project, Suez, for the next 5 to 7 years. Plus, if they're not finished, they're gonna keep going. So they're gonna come in and rip up our roads, whether we like it or not.
Is it realistic that, again, Suez is looking at the East Clintons of the world, or the, like, in front of my house, Hastings Drive, all 4
We
stores?
don't have the answer to that question yet.
They won't tell us the
We don't have the
information.
answer.
So it's either in 2 weeks, pick random roads and play random, 21 out of whatever.
So I'm in
long
contact
roads.
with a Suez gentleman who was here with the other 5 or 6 Suez people. His name is Kevin O'Connor, and he and I, Kevin, we've been emailing back and forth. I'm trying to get him to the point where he can tell us which roads there are going to be testing. Andy.
We're supposed to pick.
Correct, but we still have to coordinate between us, Andy, and Suez, right? And so Susan is having ongoing discussions with Andy, and I'm staying on top of Kevin O'Connor, and we'll keep it together. The question really is, to your point, Jeff, we've all bandied about this idea of $2 million for the roads. Is that what the council, is that the number the council wants to go with? Because Andy needs to know that in order to do a plan. That's the decision that has to be made.
Where's the capital estimate?
Our capital, we've, just from looking
Grand
at what
total.
all the departments submitted, there's like
Estimate.
$6-7 million. So.
Without road or
and
with the
without
road?
the library.
With or without the road? The 2 million.
Oh, the roads were, I think, in there.
For how much?
I don't remember if I put it, I was looking at 3 million probably. It could be up to as high as 8 or 9 million. We just got doing a lot of chopping this year.
I think the roads, unless someone disagrees, should be priority number one.
Of course. I
So
agree.
The problem is they just shot us in the foot.
Well, we're gonna have to negotiate our way through that, yes.
I know road should be priority number one. I also know we're looking at fire truck, which, when we get to that discussion, will be priority number one. Because we've said no to the fire truck. for
Did we
several
buy one
years.
3 years ago?
And the
We
gar-
do,
and
we
the
do have
garbage
one that
cans.
was what?
Different.
And
The
the
garbage
garbage
cans are
cans,
600,000.
600,000.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the
Um,
capital plan.
Look, I think we should make it a healthy amount, and if need be, we can cut it down. I think we should tell Andy, whatever number we agree on, whether it's 2 million, 3 million, here it is, and if we cut it down, we can figure out which roads are
How
gonna
much
be
was
chopped
the
from.
red roads?
$42 million.
Yeah.
Red was 42 million? I thought the whole thing was.
Six-
But I don't believe
That
the
was
numbers.
every
I don't
day.
believe
I,
the.
of course,
All
that's
right,
a
let's-
complete.
Whether we
let's-
believe
let's
the
stay
numbers
focused,
or
doesn't
not.
matter.
So I don't believe
Yeah,
that the red roads are actually red roads. You know, I mean, there's
they
some
are.
skepticism on some of that.
I
Lauren,
mean,
go ahead.
I've
Lauren.
ridden,
Lauren,
No, no,
go.
finish it.
I was just gonna say, I do see running around that the ones that they've designated in red are worse than the ones designated green.
Right.
The
but
yellows
they-
are kinda,
But are they
I have
really
no idea.
red?
are they
is the
really bad?
question.
And we can make
Don't worry
that
about it.
decision
Determination.
if he gives us a list.
Yeah.
go ahead.
So I just want to follow up a little bit. First of all, we're one of the first towns that Suez is testing, which doesn't bode well in my mind for, neuroses. But understand that they did pull up water main lead lines in Clinton. They will not tell us the levels. So it would behoove us to get some of our major streets full of residents tested as early as possible and try to maximize our exposure here. But the second thing is, because Suez has to come in and ask our permission, they have to ask our permitting process, and we have to approve it. We do have some say here on what we get or what we can ask for. And I think it would behoove us to ask for, number one, how much lead is in our water? Number two, you know what service lines they are that have most probability of lead. Identify them for us. And number three, don't just patch our roads, we want milling and paving.
Well,
I think we have a lot of
can-
negotiation
yeah,
here,
right.
we're not taking,
can't
it.
force
we're
it.
not
I
looking.
think you're right, I think you're 100% right, we have to have that conversation.
The law's on their
But
side.
right now, we need a decision on how much you wanna spend on the roads, and doing the same acceleration as we did last year, yes.
So Jeff, last year we planned not only to pave and mill and pave, but the maintenance aspect to keep the
We did
greens green.
250,
Correct.
250.
What was that number?
250, 250 on maintenance per year. That's just to
That was
seal
a good,
and
that's a
patch
good number.
And take care of the curbs
That's a good
and the
number.
ones that aren't completely falling
and,
apart.
potholes and
To
things of
keep
that
the
nature.
yellows green.
But look,
And
I
we're
think,
looking towards that. I mean, there's.
Because I remember when we talked, it was like
They said
150
it.
would have been good for a
It's
year.
okay.
250,
Susan,
that
what's
was a
the-
good head
Yeah,
start.
what's our,
The last time we went out to bond, it was like 2.08, something like that.
so,
But that was bonding, the rate for a bond anticipation note, which you do first, it's a temporary financing is usually less.
so I also want to follow up, and I was going to discuss this later, but right after we had the meeting at 9 a.m., Mark and I with Suez, came here, by the way, full force room, which we've been asking them to show up for 2 years in this borough, all of a sudden we get 18 people. So I think we have some leverage here, that's one. Number two, I showed up in the afternoon meeting, which was a hearing in Hackensack on the costs distributing to the customer to actually do this repair work. And I spoke with the attorney for Suez, and I spoke with the Board of Public Utilities. Now, the Suez people say, we can't tell you where your lead lines are, it's a matter of privacy. Now, if you think about it, it's our road, their pipes within the road. We can say, we want to know what's in our road, and they should be able to give it to us. Their attorney said, well, you're right, you should be able to get that information, but I don't have it, and I need to check the privacy statutes. But the Board of Public Utilities might have it. So I went to the Board of Utilities, and I said, what kind of reports do you get from Suez? And he gave me the report, and I think, Omar, I said, send it out to council. It doesn't identify, right, it doesn't identify the lead lines. So somewhere in here, we're getting the runaround, everyone should recognize that. And then they're saying, we're gonna do this work, and we're gonna charge each one of your customers 85 cents. And we had a really good resident show up at this hearing, Mr. White, and he basically said, look, I replaced all the lead lines in my own property for $5,000, and here's my bill. And then you guys told me my water main was clean, so I was happy. Now you're telling me the pipe that runs in between is servicing, could possibly be servicing me lead, and now you wanna charge me additional cost and I'm still drinking lead after spending $5,000?
All right, so we're
So-
getting off track with the roads, though, I mean.
Fine,
that
but
doesn't
we
mean
can't
it's not
discuss the
valid.
roads unless we actually discuss the leverage we have possibly to get 21 roads fixed.
Jeff,
Right, so I was just gonna say, I think Suez is a whole discussion, and to your point, Lauren,
Yeah.
we have a lot of old pipes here, not just lead.
We
So,
do.
we fixed Grove Street, soon after, pipes broke.
Mhm.
We had a major pipe breakdown at the bottom of Hillside.
Yes, we did.
Pipes will always break, we can't just, I agree the leverage, that's a whole separate discussion. Right now, we need to just identify how much money we want to spend for fixing roads, knowing full well whether or not there's lead pipes, there will be pipe bursts, there will be gas line issues, roads will be dug up. New homes, when they build new homes, the new homeowner's gonna dig up the road to put in new lines. So all of this is tearing up roads that we do. That's just a given. So I don't wanna run our whole lives based on that. We gotta get roads done. So the question is, how much money do we wanna spend?
What was last year's number?
So last year's.
I have to run in my office and make sure, I know the Riverside co-op was
I
625.
mean, I agree
It's
with you,
chicken and
that's a
egg here.
And
whole
then maybe
Chicken and egg.
discussion.
it wasn't,
It's a
I
whole
don't think it
So it's like
came
discussion.
more than
1.5?
one point something, yeah.
It was
I think it was
about
1.6.
I think you're right.
I think it was
Yeah.
Last
1.6.
year's, what was last year's, NGDOT street, Piermont?
Piermont.
Piermont,
Piermont.
yeah.
So if you're saying it's
We need, and we have
1.3.
Hudson coming now.
Which was kicked over.
Okay, so where are we with the number?
I can't have a
1.5?
number yet.
Well, we
I
need
can't have a
one
number
because
until I have a conversation
You're
with
saying, Dan, you're
Suez.
saying
then
Never
we're
gonna
never,
happen.
we're never
That's
gonna
not
get
gonna
to
happen.
Riverside Co-op.
That's the last time we paid last.
And we won't get the
Last year was
roads
1.3.
We can't do
paved.
that.
But I can't pick
Six.
21
I have to
roads.
double
Wait,
check.
stop,
Maybe
stop,
she should
stop.
say
Susan,
that.
one at a time.
I can't pick 21 roads knowing I'm gonna pave them this year, they're gonna tear them up next
Well,
year.
let's do
I
it
don't
this
think
We're not
way.
picking, we're not
Go
picking.
ahead, Jeff.
Let's do it this way then, Lauren, to your point.
Yeah,
Since we wanna have some say in which roads they're testing, right?
correct.
We come up with a number. We identify the roads. We tell them, these are not the roads you're gonna test, here are the other
Yeah,
roads.
that's
All right,
Yeah,
there you go.
that's-
And
That's
we
how I
will
do
it.
Back
test
away into
these
it.
other roads, these are the roads we're paving, do not
Right,
touch
we
them.
pick first.
And we pick first, and we
Yeah.
pick roads that we don't want tested as our first priority. You pick, which ones you think that they should be testing. We'll make sure that those are not on this list, but we've gotta get this
Right,
done in
exactly.
2 weeks, otherwise we're.
So here's my dilemma. I would pick the most mileage that we could,
Mhm.
under the cost that we could, so I'd get as much bang for our buck in
Correct.
terms of road milling and paving. The problem is, I would do the same for lead testing. I'd want the most residents covered as soon as possible for testing. To me, those are the same roads, and this is my dilemma.
So,
Well, if it's
so
the same
Suez
roads,
comes
then
to you,
we're not
here's
doing
21
roads.
roads, to Jeff's point, take numbers 3, 5, 10, 13, and off the roads we just paved them, go find 3 more roads.
Right.
That's it.
That doesn't tell me if there's lead in those roads.
But
So
that's a
in 2 years,
whole
they're coming
entire
back
separate
and they're ripping
issue.
that road up.
And we can't wrap these two together so tightly, because
Then we get
never
Suez
get
can
it.
cancel their
Never get
program in
anything
6 weeks and say, we're not doing it
Because
for
in
another
2
8
years,
months.
that road's not a red.
Right.
Oh, I assume they're not doing it.
It was-
They're
So that
Circle
even
that
more
out.
reason why we need to go with our program. Susan, hit one at a time here. And I think what Jeff says makes sense. We pick our roads and then have them do roads that aren't our roads that we want paved.
County?
Pardon
You
me?
mean like county roads?
No.
Well,
He's saying, if we, let's say we spend 2 million and we pick out the 10 roads, however many number of roads it is, well, those won't be the 10, Suez won't test
No, of
those
course.
10 roads.
Of course.
That's all.
That's it.
Yep.
So we pick first.
The other option
Okay,
is,
let's not get into, it's too many.
the other option is we give them the permit to test right now, and those are the 10 roads we pick.
Well, they have
Those are
to
the
apply for a permit.
But I'm saying the other option is we actually do the exact roads that they test. Pick the ones, get them tested first, and then pave them.
We can't.
We can't wait that long.
You
They're
can't
gonna do
wait.
it on
You can't do
time,
that on their schedule. We
This-
don't know
this
what, we
schedule.
don't have any
Our permits
time.
are for this month.
I mean,
Thank you.
the mayor.
Yeah, but they haven't applied for permits. We can't
I'm saying,
control that.
we will issue you permits for the month of March and April. We will get our paving done in August and September. I'm
But you
saying,
can't- you
there's a
can't-
little wiggle
You
room.
can't issue someone building permits until they apply for it.
They're waiting on us to pick them.
But that's why his plan is the best one. Susan,
I think maybe let them do the yellow roads, because then eventually they're gonna have to get paved, so as do the testing on some yellow roads.
there you go. All right, so back to the number.
It's too abstract right now.
Okay, well, we've got the next 10 minutes to decide, because there's no more time left in the schedule.
I think that I don't have a number, just throw out randomly at a table. I don't like
But
this.
we're not randomly throwing out a number. Last year, we did 1.6
Right, we have
million.
anchors.
We proposed,
Yeah.
I already proposed the $3 million bond. The $3 million bond doesn't make sense if most of the roads we pave are gonna get ripped up in the next 5 years.
No.
We can't function like that.
Every road that we.
Everything is gonna get ripped up.
I like your idea, I think the $3 million number, again, I see anchors of 1.5 we've done in the past. We, at that pace, it's never gonna happen. We have this 50, 60, $70 million number that we have to eventually get to, even if it's half that, 45, it doesn't matter. We gotta move towards filling that up. If we could afford 5, that'd be awesome, I don't think we could afford 5.
We tried that already.
So I think,
Too big of a
I think
number.
3 is a reasonable
Let's say
number.
3.
Well, I think it's also gonna depend on the
I still
rest
think
of the
that's a little
budget
high.
and what else is in
Fair
the
enough.
capital.
We can
So
always back
this is an
down.
abstract conversation to be had and not here, which should be had during
I
budget.
think it's an initial.
truly-
It's an
a
initial
number.
conversation,
It's
to
an
see how you make the numbers work.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you
We've
do
had a $3
some
million
with a
max.
temporary plan with the Riverside Co-op, and then do the rest, you'll have a few months before the capital
So we
plan has
just
to
cut
get
it,
adopted.
right. So
one.
So we have a number on the
Yeah.
table of 3. Manu,
I agree.
Julie,
Sure.
Dan,
Slightly too high, go for 2.
okay, Lauren,
3 was what Max and I proposed last year for this program, and it depended on what else was in the budget.
so your number is 3?
Depending on the budget. I have no
Okay,
number
so-
right now.
So what I'm gonna say, because I think this is a good idea, we plan 3, but we go to Riverside Co-op with 1.5,
Okay.
because I think we're all comfortable that 1.5 will be
It's
passed in
very
the
doable.
budget.
Correct.
And later, if there's more money in the budget, then we can go and
Got
add
3
to
million,
it.
1.5 and 1.5.
Done.
That's what's
Does that
all I
make
need.
sense?
Okay,
Works.
Then
Okay.
we can add to
But
it.
do we bond for the whole thing?
No.
You were gonna do temporary capital plan for 1.5,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll have time to work out the other issues to see if you still wanna do the
Do we have an NJ
remainder for next year.
Do we have an NJDOT one this year?
I don't know, we have to be with the engineer, I don't know anything yet
And
until
I
next
think,
Wednesday.
and I think we
Okay.
just have to really manage, I apologize, Mr. Mayor, is, again, this is the
Woodland,
time
Woodland,
to be
Woodland's on
spending
next.
relative to where rates are, where the economy is, where everything is. I
believe-
promise you, 2 years from now,
yeah.
call it 2.5, call it 1.5. I'm telling you, we will not be in this situation that we're in now. This is when we have to do it.
Okay, all right, next item, parking lot O, Councilwoman Dayton.
So this was a plan that was proposed last year, and at the time, Councilman Zena and I were supposed to explore this. This is to renovate the area behind the movie theater to have more attractive parking, better lighting, safer egress to the parking lot from downtown shops. So the plan was estimated to be somewhere between $100,000 to $200,000 from Mazer. If anyone is interested in going forward on this before we start meeting again, I'd like to know. So this was, and by the way, right after this, I have a second plan to discuss. So this is parking lot O. It would make a pathway from what used to be Lazzaro's. It would light up and clean up that area. We'd have vegetation. We'd try to consolidate the garbage back there. We'd try to have the residents understand that that's a working parking lot for downtown. And that's the plan. So I need to know if we're interested in going forward with it this year. If you still want to explore it, we never really got it up off the ground last year. Mazer had set a plan for us.
And right now, just so I understand, the parking lot's just not ideal, whether it doesn't have the right lighting or the right
Yeah,
security.
you're
So
walking
it's a-
through garbage cans
And
and
fencing.
it's all
It's
messy
shaped
over
weird.
there, so you don't use the parking lot.
Would that be a more appropriate, I like the idea of investing in it,
Mhm, and
more
there's a whole
appropriate
plan.
for like the employees of the downtown that are just more familiar with it? Do you really think you're,
So it would actually have, the way the plan was set out is that we'd actually create employee designated spots, which then would take them out of some other spots.
that,
on-
I'd be
on-
even more amenable to it if
Yes,
we
and
could
that was
figure
one
out
of
a
the
way to do
goals.
that.
So that we would actually make designated employee spots close to the businesses
Yep.
and move our residents to the center, which isn't a huge amount of space, but it's still something. We would need an easement on property to use it because it's privately owned, the walkway to get to those spots. And then we'd create a nice walking path with lights and landscaping so that it's useful for the residents and for the stores.
And that works towards the mayor's 3 goals, I like that.
Manu, what do you think?
I mean, I agreed with it last year, I think it's.
Julie?
Absolutely.
Dan?
Dark.
Yeah?
I agreed with it last year.
So let's talk with Mazer
So
about
let's put
us
that back
having a
on.
potential project,
So
okay?
this is in the
That's
document.
a lot more light.
Not the temp.
That's correct, this is adopted, this is not temporary.
Okay.
Okay, River Edge,
So
River
this-
Edge Road,
Meridian. So,
Meridian.
did you guys all get the picture I had, Omar, did you get to send that picture
Yeah,
around?
we did.
So if you guys can open that up, and this is a picture of the area, of the intersection between, Piermont and Tenafly Road, where CVS and Stop and Shop and Fine Wines and Pinky's Nails and all of those stores are. So let me just open it so I can better explain it. So essentially, what I'm gonna stand up and try to draw this because it's gonna be a little difficult. Okay, so we have 3 areas of crosswalk in this area and 2 bus stops. And last year we had somebody hit in this intersection.
I don't think it's a crosswalk in the middle, is it?
It is. There's a 3, I already checked with the police, it doesn't need crosswalk. So
Oh, it's not. Yeah.
if you look at the area, we had a pedestrian hit by a car. We also have cars crossing double yellows. We have entrances and exits to our businesses that are all interspersed and not aligned, so that you're basically playing chicken with a car on a diagonal. You have bus stops in the middle of all of this traffic. You have an extra wide street so that we're not sure if it's 2 lanes or 4 lanes and that people tend to weave in and out. So I am looking at this for a pedestrian safety grant. And what I would like to propose, and I've sat down with Chief Chamberlain and the traffic department at the police. I've sat down with Andy Hippolyte at Mazer. And the last person I need to speak, or the last 2 people I need to speak with is the fire department and our TVAC, just to double check.
DPW as well, for plowing.
Well, yes. So what I would like to propose, and I'm gonna draw it a little bit, so you'll have to excuse this. So the chief would like to actually, instead of having 4 lanes, so if here's Piermont, and here, let me just write Tenafly. Instead of having 4 lanes, we would actually like to make it how we do right near the police station, and kind of squeeze our lanes here into 2. So instead of just having 4 lanes, we're now going to squeeze with white markings and better striping a little bit more of an area where pedestrians can walk and be with better curbing on either side. The main part of this project is a meridian down the center with trees and lights, which beautifies the downtown. It makes it more difficult to cross and make the illegal double yellows over the double yellows, and actually creates better pedestrian safety because it would be a section meridian in between the crosswalks. I'm going to just draw some terrible trees here. I'm not really an artist. So if you think about this, it highlights where the crosswalks are. It has lighting and trees down the center. So you're better able to see, especially this crosswalk in the center.
And that's the senior center crosswalk, right?
No, we're not up to the senior
No,
center.
no.
That's further down.
Stop and Shop
Stop
entrance.
and Shop.
Stop and Shop.
Yeah,
Entrance.
it's right there.
So
Stop and Shop. Oh, sorry, this way.
I'm gonna just show you, look,
Yes, right
Stop and
before you.
Shop. Adam, if you look, Stop and
Alright.
Shop is somewhere, the parking lot's like over here. CVS is over here,
Yeah, I see that.
okay?
That's-
So I'm looking to basically,
Okay.
so basically what I'm looking to do is divide the road and create actual 2 lanes of traffic with a better
Yeah,
flow.
but it's the other
Now,
side,
the
so
questions I have for the police and the fire, they need, in the middle somewhere over here, is, it would be a raised platform that only emergency vehicles can get through, so that there's no issues with emergency vehicles, and that would be in the center, as part of the meridian, so that there's no changes in response time or issues getting around the traffic. The second part of it is that this is a county road, so we need permission to do the next part. But I would like to make right turn only out of each of the sides of the street.
So,
So that Stop and Shop turns right, CVS turns right,
It's yellow.
so that you are not crossing.
all right, one at a time here.
So going in, stop
Go
and
ahead,
shop.
Adam, then
So
Julie.
again, this is
Yes.
because this is, you spoke with the chief, and this is a big area of people getting hit.
So someone has been hit, it's a big area of concern for pedestrian safety. We have many people walking through town, we have kids coming from the middle school and high school to town that cross near Tenafly Road at the top. We have the bus stops, 2 of them in the center that use the center crosswalk, and then we have various pedestrians and cars near Piermont, near the bank, on the corner of the diner.
Senior center.
Don't they cross at that
See that yellow?
crosswalk though?
Oh, yeah.
It's not well striped, it's not well lit. You have cars coming from all different directions, and you have a blinking light there, so it's not a hard stop for any car.
Julie?
So it's pedestrian safety issues.
Alright, so they did something similar to this by the Teaneck Armory.
Yes.
If you remember,
That's
because I'm in
correct.
my part of
I
town.
drive there all the time.
And
Yes.
they put these islands in the middle. I have one question, I don't know if it's been considered, it's just a layman's question. I remember when it first went up, we were like, whoa, this is dangerous for a car. Like, we weren't expecting so much more road taken by these islands and things. So I just, which we got used to it, but I didn't know if that's something that these people who study this stuff, are they also taking into
Yes.
that into effect?
So
the car.
the narrower the road,
The
the
slower
traffic
drive.
automatically starts slowing down.
Okay.
It's just
Automatic, and
it's
the
a
road is
tactic
no longer
they
as
use.
dangerous to cross for everyone.
And that's one of the goals here. We want to slow
And
it.
it'll look
Let me
a
just
lot
respond.
nicer.
So Andy Hippolyte actually went through all the rules and regulations about how wide. We can actually go all the way up to like an 8-foot meridian. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for more like a 4 or 5 foot. If that, I want it just to have a little bit of beautification and to highlight the striping a little bit better on the crosswalks. We don't have to have a double wide meridian. He suggests, at least enough feet across that a tree could grow.
Talking like West Side Highway.
That's very wide. That's incredibly
No,
wide.
but height wise.
No, I'm talking low down, just set for,
Did you just say 4 feet?
wide, not
Oh,
tall.
I'm sorry.
Wide,
Sorry.
wide. And I'm only 5 feet, so if you think.
So, I have I know a landscape architect that might actually sketch this out and draw it for you at
Yes.
no cost.
I know him.
So we should talk about that offline.
So what I need approval from though, like I said, I've been to our police department, I've sat with the Chief Chamberlain. It is possible, what I need approval before we go forward on any of this is that there's an interest in this project. It's estimated if we do all of the milling and paving, road striping, cross hatching to make it narrower, the meridian, the electricity, the tree planting. Amazer's quoting $250. Again, this is just abstract. But more than anything, we need the county's approval to do the work.
County road.
It's a county road.
Jeff?
Right, so, you talked to me about the plan I like, and I've done some looking, and of course, we all bring our experiences, like Julie was just talking about Teaneck. So, one of the things that I bring is in Queens, in the Forest Hills area on Queens Boulevard, they
I know.
put one of these down, and what they found was it actually increased the number of pedestrian fatalities.
Because you can't see over it.
Because people felt more emboldened to walk anywhere across because I could make it to the median. So what they ended up doing was then incurring the cost of adding a fence, the entire length of it, to keep people from crossing anywhere. The fence, A, looks terrible, and B, was at a great cost to retrofit it. That's just one thing to consider. And then the other is, since we do have the complete streets here, what does this do for bicyclists and such going through town, since our ordinance says we really should be considering the project?
Well, with the cross-hatching, we can actually redo the curbing, the sidewalks, and actually add bicycle lanes, because now we're actually pushing the cars to the center, which actually would be wonderful for the bike lanes, if we want that, if we want bikers on.
We have
on this.
parking along there by fines, and I don't think they'd want to see parking in front of the store disappear.
So I spoke with both the chief and Andy Hippolyte at Mazer about leaving those parking spots. Because we'll have that space on the cross-hatching, we can actually leave all street parking, which was a big thing I know that many of us were concerned about. And so we're not looking to take parking away from any business here. Again, this is a way where we don't necessarily want people to stop in this meridian. It won't be as big as like the city meridians where you pause and then you
Right.
cross again. We're not looking for that kind of crossing. It would be
It only has to
Full
be 2
cross.
to 3 feet wide for
Right.
people to stop.
Right.
to stop there. Well, there's not gonna be any place to stand. It's not like where in New York City they carve out, lower raised sidewalks or lower sidewalks
No,
that you
I'm
could pause
talking
on.
about just, it's a flat meridian though, at some point.
All right, so let's,
Anyway,
Adam,
the-
you had a question?
I think I certainly, obviously agree on, safety and such. I think I'd like to look at it holistically. I know we have this, downtown committee and, I don't know if it, I'd like to look at it a little more holistically than sort of.
So perhaps, Lauren, we talk to the architect and the resident and see if he won't be willing to sketch some stuff for us so people can start seeing things.
So Andy sketched it, but with a caveat that he's not gonna touch it until we give approval at this table.
Understood, so.
So our engineer will lay out an entire
Yeah.
plan for us to go through.
We're not there yet. Let's get these other
Right.
sketches from the resident. Yes, Julie?
Just one more question
Yeah,
about it,
go for
and
it.
by the way, I do a lot of walking in town, I find it, that's a super dangerous road, so
Me too.
mean,
I walk all the time.
really, it's a needed, adjustment. But, I just wanna make sure if you're coming from Tenafly Road, then you turn down this road, we're still able to, from that direction, pull into the Stop and Shop parking lot?
You will not be able to cross, right now, it's actually illegal for you to make that left turn into Stop and Shop.
I don't think it is.
It's double yellow. You are technically.
That's an entrance.
That's an entrance.
Yeah, they
That's
do
it.
have a block,
It's an
a block
entrance going
that
from
is not
east to
double yellow.
west. You're not supposed to be doing it going from west to east.
Double yellow, I could be completely wrong here, but this was discussed at our
It
planning
is
meeting.
there.
According
I
to-
think double yellow, I do not believe is you can't,
Yeah, right
See-
here.
See right here,
Cross.
there's
Our
no,
traffic division
All
says
right,
you always
let's
should be
not
making
go
both
into
that.
traffic rules right now. All
But
right?
it's open, there's not.
I understand that, but it's considered.
No,
No.
I understand to get into the Stop and Shop.
Turn left on Grove.
All right.
and come around South.
So I think we have a
We need to
plan,
get-
everyone. Lauren, we'll take it offline with the architect, right?
You got it.
Okay. So next item is personnel. This is about human resources manager. Okay, guys, we've got a proposed draft here of the ad that will be placed for recruiting an HR manager. Does anyone have any questions or comments on Jeff?
So, are we agreed we're looking for a full-time HR manager? Because this says day-to-day operations, and I'm not sure yet.
Of human resources, I mean, I think we're looking for a full-time person.
How many employees do we have?
162 and about 180 volunteer citizens.
Would try and cover really HR, but could be, yeah, okay.
162 people. We probably should have had an HR person about 120 people to go. Yes,
I just
Dan.
want to make sure.
No,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yes, Omar.
One thing, I spoke with Lizette earlier today regarding that. She did mention that we should have the candidate be SHRM qualified.
right, it's
That's in here it's preferred.
right.
I know it's in there as preferred, but she did mention that she thinks that we should have someone who has a SHRM certification because of the ongoing things here and the continuous things that's going on here. And,
Okay, so we'll take out the words as preferred, but not, so.
but there's two, and also, the SHRM is two levels to it.
No.
So
it's,
you have the
Society
SHRM, the
for
regular
Human Resources
certification, and the
Management.
SHRM, I think that's CP.
Okay,
I'm not too certain on
we'll
on
figure
the
that.
difference, but yeah.
Right, so
Stick to that.
this will go with insurance certification required. Any other questions, comments? Okay, any old business?
Board of Health chapter? Did it get in?
Skateboard ordinance.
Skate park discussion?
What are the top three?
Pod?
Should we keep going?
No, don't keep going.
Okay, no, wait, I have one more for the good of the order.
Go ahead, what is that?
That is the merger.
Of the youth center and recreation.
Let's-
So why don't we set that up for a full discussion during a work session,
Are we?
right? For the next
Should we
meeting.
vote?
Are
when
we
are we
still
gonna
in the
go
work
Oh,
forward?
yes, you have to decide if you want to do that, I'm
Are we
sorry.
still in the work session?
Yes.
Or are we?
We're still in the work
Yes, we're still in the
session.
work
So
session,
old business is regular session, right?
We're in regular, yeah, what do you mean?
Public?
Right, it's public. Right?
Oh, we're in a public
So,
meeting.
so we need to
What
either
are we in?
close
Are you
or
in
whatever,
public
we have
meeting or
to.
still in the work session?
No, we're still in work session.
We're
Right,
in
but
the
you
work
just
session.
mentioned
It's a
old
public
business.
meeting.
Yeah, I know, that's, people are looking at the wrong agenda.
Okay, so Lauren, you want to add this to the next work session, because this is a whole discussion unto itself.
Well, I would need permission from the rest of the council if
So
anyone's
ask your
interested.
colleagues if they want to do it. Yes.
Well, you want to present it?
Sorry, go back,
Youth
present
event.
it. Sure, well, I mean.
Julie?
Oh,
No, Vinny,
No, no.
and Jeff were working on it last year. They were on a commission to
Okay.
research this last year.
Mhm.
So that's why I said if anyone
So
wants to present it,
we
not
can
me.
bring it up. Yep.
Okay, we'll add it to the next work session. All right, old business.
Wait,
Wait.
no,
No.
you're getting mixed up now.
You're getting mixed up.
You're on the wrong agenda.
Mark,
No, it
we had
just-
to, we had to
it
pull the
just
table to
happened
see if we wanna
here.
move forward.
Mistake.
What?
I meant for
They
you to
did
present
put
the issue.
old business on this agenda.
But you said, he took it as your vote.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We need to really
I messed up.
About the issue now. I think it
Motion to
Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Okay.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
In the old business.
Aye.
We'll have the public meeting in here.
Yes.
Good.
You want a 5-minute break, or you ready to rock and roll?
Keep
Okay.
going.
I have to read the Open Public Meetings Act again?
Yes.
Yes.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, the Suburbanite, and the Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center. Salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Dayton,
Here.
Councilmember Grossman,
Here.
Councilmember Menon,
Here.
Councilmember Michaels,
Present.
Councilmember O'Connor,
Here.
Councilmember Park, here, Mayor Zinna.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of September 24th, 2019, the regular meeting, work session, and closed session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, are there any revisions to the agenda?
Yes,
Closed session, okay.
okay. There's, in closed session, I see we already have under attorney-client privilege, Serpentine Road properties. We're gonna add to that discussion about a potential acquisition.
Okay. Anything else? No?
I believe Lauren.
I want to
said-
add something to the closed session, please.
And what is the something?
An employee issue.
So, Bill, what is that, a personnel matter?
Personnel matter.
Personnel matter.
Relating to the DPW? No?
No.
Okay, just
Yeah.
another personnel matter, okay.
Okay. All right.
And also the requisition, not the requisition, goodness, I'm sorry, the RFQ. You have to add the RFQ.
We have to add the RFQ.
resolution.
To the consent
Oh,
agenda.
okay.
Yes.
You mean adding it to the consent agenda?
Yes,
right.
because council
Okay.
approved,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, good. All right, public comments. We have a member of the public here. Please state your name for the record.
Christine Evron, 39 Leroy Street, President of the Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to remind you for River Edge Road that NJDOT has a whole design project for making streets safe, which this sounds like a really good candidate for.
That's the grant.
And if you have your bike lanes going up the center of your meridian, tying into your Northern Valley Greenway, that might be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but you want your bike lanes on the meridian, so you don't want trees, you don't want fences, you don't want,
It's not wide enough.
Okay,
I don't know. Safe street people are engineers, they're experts.
Can I get a, public comment period is closed. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
as amended?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. You roll call?
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dayton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connor,
She just stepped away.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Any old business? No? Any new business? So we're gonna go right to, let's
Mayor's marks.
ask Councilwoman O'Connor if she has any.
Committee reports.
You're right.
That was the.
Do you have any, Julie, old business or new business?
No, I had a committee
And,
report.
and
Okay,
does she
so-
get to vote on the consent
Yeah, just-
agenda or no?
No, it's passed. Okay, so Julie, why don't you do your committee report, please?
Great, so, I went to the health department meeting, and they were discussing the option of having this CVS in town, running the town's flu clinic. And I followed up with our borough attorney, and we're seeing if this is a viable option that's worth pursuing. We also discussed the lack of a 24-hour pharmacy nearby. The closest one on the New Jersey side of the river here is in Fairlawn. The Bergenfield and Fort Lee ones no longer have a 24-hour pharmacy. Yes, that is
Really?
correct.
I know,
And
I
I-
was shocked about this.
Which one?
Montville on, Kennecott Road?
So Fairlawn would probably be before Montville.
Oh, okay.
So this issue will be explored. A lot of people don't realize that we used to have a 24-hour pharmacy on the Walgreens in Bergenfield, but that's no longer, and similar to Fort Lee.
Montville, it'd be quicker to go to 168th Street and Broadway.
Right, yeah.
To be fair, I do want
12 minutes.
the record to show that a third of the entire council is from Fairlawn, and that's where
There you
the
go, that is true.
24-hour
And I did
So I'm
like
just- let the
visiting
record
those
state.
stomping grounds, but.
All right, okay, what else,
far.
Julie?
And then, so it's basically the big takeaways from the health department meeting. And then in the environment, which Councilman Park was, they're attending far more of it. I'm just gonna add to whatever he has to say is that the Northern Valley Earth Fest, which Tenafly hosted last year, that was originally going to be on the 26th of April. It's now
God bless you.
gonna be Saturday, April 25th in Norwood. So it's a change of a date, change of a host city, and I just wanted to make sure people knew.
It's also the 50th anniversary of Earth Day.
Oh, is it? That's nice.
So,
Dan,
those are
do-
my
that's it? Dan, do you have anything?
TVAC met. They had a new membership orientation, 30 new members for the summer program. In the month of January, they had 70 total calls. Average time 5.2 minutes.
Oh, they're tracking?
I guess so. This is the first time we got it.
That's good.
There's a new captain.
Send back the message, that's good, the tracking.
Can we get actual?
State has all the data.
That's it.
So Dan, does in terms of TVAC, the population, do people tend to join when they're juniors, early in their junior year, and then by the seniors, obviously they're off to college, so there's no sophomores who are ever in the program, really?
No.
No,
So the test is quite difficult now.
Right.
So
okay.
they get a lot.
Excuse me, what, Susan?
Who's the new captain?
JP.
Oh, JP, okay.
Congratulations.
Lauren, do you have any committee reports?
I do. I spoke with the Pride Committee, they're about to meet, they're looking for new members if anyone wants to be on Pride. They would like to stay separate, we talked about them possibly being an ad hoc committee, they're going to stay separate. And so, that's easy, but,
That's easy.
Okay.
yes. The Northern Valley Greenway is starting a program for more publicity with ambassadors to the Greenway. And so the first meeting will be this Thursday to, basically decide what kind of events we want to promote, how we want to get some more public information out, and make sure that everyone understands what the Northern Valley Greenway project is about. And you have to appoint,
I have to appoint ambassadors?
a second alternative resident to be our designated person.
For the Northern Valley Greenway.
Right.
Okay.
So we can do it another day.
No, I have a name for the second, I have that.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Grinker.
Shepherd.
Shepherd.
Right.
Shepherd from our bike store.
Okay.
And so we're thrilled to have him come on board, and hopefully he'll make Thursday's
I was
meeting.
gonna mention that on the mayor's remarks.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And just while we're on the
You'll have to
topic.
remind me.
The welcoming committee met, everyone please mark down, let me just get the date down. May 20th will be our new residence event at the firehouse. It's going to be
May
this.
20th?
May 20th, this is where we welcome new residents that have come in. Just so you guys know, for the year 2019, we had 410 either houses or renters come into town. So that's a significant amount. The last time we were up that high was 2013.
Wow.
So after that, it was pretty low. And that just doesn't include private sales, but for the firehouse event, we'll have the ice cream truck again. This time we're trying to get more young families and do dinner. We tried very hard for food trucks, and they're so expensive, and the welcoming committee has a very limited budget. So we're going to try to ask some maybe local businesses for either hot dogs or hamburgers or pizza or something, so that new residents can come out from 5 to 7 and not, have a dinner option. They will be asking for the same budget that they had last year, and so we have to put that in. They are looking for more volunteers to come out and join the welcoming committee, and I know a lot of us gave some additional names if you're interested. And they were going to do pancake breakfast with new moms and seniors and try to mix them up, and they just can't seem to find a reasonable price at this time to hold that kind of thing, but they're still looking for more ways to connect the incoming and new residents to our community. And so that's that one, and then.
Did they learn anything from didn't the senior center just do a pancake breakfast?
They did, it was extremely successful.
They did at the senior
Anything they
center.
could learn from that?
I
Like
think
to
that
make
was
it more
donated.
affordable?
That was donated by
It's
IHOP.
donated.
Donated by IHOP.
Right, and so this is for new residents, the welcoming committee.
How many residents come?
We probably get about 50 so we do our big event in September, which is a big, nice night catered by La Promenade, and that can get somewhere between 50 and 80 families, new families,
Good.
and then the
18.
firehouse, Christine says 18.
Families.
Families, okay. And
Still 60 people to feed.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of people.
And the firehouse, we get a different group. We get the residents that have moved in basically the past 6 months.
Okay.
So we're trying to space it so it doesn't feel like, oh, I've been here for a year, I'm not gonna come. And the last one is the DPW, which Jeff and I and the mayor met with Bob Culver. And so everyone knows we're investigating to buy in this budget pothole filler equipment and hot boxes, which will significantly help our pothole situation in town. We will not have to transport cold asphalt from another town to here, not cold, but, take the time, and this will be a more efficient way to fill our
But
potholes.
we'll still have to
We'll still have to transport, but now we'll have, it'll stay
Two hot
warmer.
boxes in the capital budget.
Are you filling the reds or the?
Well, this would be a designated, the goal is to have a designated pothole crew to fill them all. And actually, I saw our DPW working this weekend filling potholes, so thank you to that crew.
So,
They were in my area.
can I make a comment about that?
Yes,
So
please, go ahead.
we have a crew, 2 gentlemen, who go to, they take the mason dump, and they go out to North Heldon, I believe the asphalt is, they pick up the asphalt, they cover it in a very rudimentary way, and it's not in a heated vehicle, and they bring it back to Tenafly, and then they fill potholes, and at some point during the day, once the temperature drops below 375 degrees outside, the asphalt cools off very rapidly. Obviously, that was me being sarcastic, okay? And so what a hot box is something that we either put on the back of a trailer, or we put it in the mason dump, and we have to decide which way we're gonna go yet. That's a logistical question. That keeps the blacktop, the asphalt, at 375 degrees, so when it's being put into the road, it actually adheres properly to the asphalt around it. Right now, what's going on during 6 months out of the year, when it's cold weather, and we're trying to do this for 7 months out of the year, the asphalt cools down rapidly, and we take 40 to 50% of the asphalt we buy every day and we put it in the garbage. Because once it reaches a certain point, you can't use it anymore. And so we're gonna purchase these 2 hot boxes, put it on the one existing truck, and we already have 2 other mason dumps. We don't need to buy a new truck, although we might need 2 small trailers, seeing how we're gonna install it. And the hot boxes are about 40,000 each, and we're going to have the manpower with the recycling trucks coming online to man the second truck without any additional labor costs at all.
Awesome.
It's gonna be great.
So,
And I have one more report, and this is
go
a little
ahead.
bit longer.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you added that detail. Tenafly Nature Center, a few small things and one big. The big is the gate is leaking, and so they need to reassess.
The gate is leaking.
The gate is still
I
leaking.
thought they just fixed
The gate. What?
I think they're
They
still
just-
fixing.
They just fixed that, didn't they?
I think they need to fix again, but.
Okay.
but
When will
someone
we have
should-
more?
Gate leaks?
Can you follow up with that, Susan?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the big, the smaller things, their new director, Deborah Davidson, doing a wonderful job.
Yeah.
lots of energy, great organized, everyone, the board is very happy with her so far. The mayor and council are invited to the annual gala on March 15th. They would like each one of us, hopefully, to bring some friends and family and help fill the room. Of course, this is one of their major drives for
March 15th?
fundraising. Yes. So please come join us. The second thing is, and this really is for Bill, there is a lease for the house that is called the Dunham House, which sits in the Tenafly Nature Center Land Preserve.
Correct.
And currently, the Dunham House is designated for the director to live in. And Deborah lives in Englewood, isn't interested in using that house right now. And currently, it's vacant, but being used by like a carekeeper who comes and upkeeps the land and keeps track of the weather and things like that. So what they would like to do is change the lease to have it designated for the Dunham House as staff, like a Tenafly Nature Center staff, and not director. And so that person would be designated with maintaining the facility, maintaining the property, notifying the Tenafly Nature Center and the borough for safety and emergencies, which is what the director does when they live in that house, but the director's not living there.
That's, I think, part of the overall Tenafly Nature Center lease.
So the lease is with us, and so we need to give them permission whether they can change that.
So I guess the question,
No,
Bill,
so-
is can we, based on the existing lease, can we allow them to let someone other than the director live there?
Why not make it more vague and just put the responsibility?
Does the lease already allow them to do that?
You know, it's been so long since I looked at that lease.
So we need to read the lease.
In fact, it may be part of a different lease.
Well,
Because
I don't know.
the
Oh,
Lost Brook
yeah.
Preserve, it's not
Right.
in the Lost Brook Preserve
No,
section.
it's specific
It's
to
in
the
the
Dunham
old,
House.
it's in the old Tenafly Nature Center
Right.
lease,
Like,
which I haven't looked at in.
I guess let's dig out the lease and then we can
Decades.
talk about it. Okay. But maybe your question though, Lauren, is also, if assuming that's okay, is the council okay with that?
That is correct.
That's the question. Is everyone okay with that?
yes.
Does anyone have any
Okay, good.
issues with that?
Yeah, I don't think there's any legal impediment to that, it's just as we could easily do that. We just have to see if we have to do that.
Right.
We
I think
might
it-
not have to.
I think it
Yeah, why
stays with
not?
the consistent
Why not
spirit of the
just-
lease.
Yeah, why not just lease it to the TNC, the house to the TNC, and then let them decide who
Well,
gets
the
I
house
think it
ours.
is. I think it is already leased, and in the old lease,
In their bylaws, let the director live.
So this is not the actual main house, this is actually the carriage house off to the side. The main house is owned by a
All
private
right.
couple.
No, you know.
Right.
Lauren, is there anything else?
That's it for me.
Jeff?
Right, so just finishing out on DPW committee, we actually had quite a lengthy meeting. It included discussing the upcoming recycling changes that, for people who are watching this, we are getting the new trucks that will be the one-armed trucks. This year, we're putting into the budget for the cans that work with that. We will be having town hall meetings, we'll be meeting with senior citizens to talk about how this will work and how this will save a lot of backs. We also had some discussions, and this is gonna be a continuing discussion about, single stream versus what we're currently doing in terms of separating out our recyclables and how that might work going forward. There was, in addition to the hot boxes for potholes, we also talked about that we already own and have not been utilizing a crack filler, which basically goes and seals where there are cracks in the road with tar, and that will also be part of the program to help maintain existing roads. That there's a soft opening date for the dog park.
The dog park soft opening date is Saturday, February 8th.
And so we're looking forward to that, and then we will be picking an official ribbon cutting date when the weather's a little bit warmer. So that's DPW. As far as planning board met and approved a plan for mixed use at 21 South Summit Street. That's across the street from the senior center. It's a little house. And what it's going to have is a very small storefront on the first floor. And then it will have two duplex apartments above it with parking in the back. You have a question, Lisa?
You just answered it.
Okay.
I was gonna say, where was the parking?
Parking's
For this-
going to be in the back. There'll be a fairly narrow driveway, but large enough, obviously, for emergency vehicles, garbage pickup, all that, to go to the back. There was also a continuing discussion, and there will be more continuing discussion on Bottle King. Bottle King produced witness, and then the objecting attorney had tons of questions, which has led to more witnesses or more testimony being necessary going into the future, so that's kind of.
Did they make a pedestrian traffic study?
So we didn't even get to the traffic study,
Okay.
period.
Okay.
That is one of the questions I have is, for them is, does traffic include pedestrian traffic and not just vehicular traffic? But because of changes in calculation, they now have to include some of the loft area for calculations, and that will affect the calculations of cars going in and off the site. It's an interesting point, and it has to be further vetted. Last thing I want to report, even though they did not meet, I want to keep announcing to the world that on Thursday, February 13th, the Stigma Free Committee is organizing at the Tenafly High School boys basketball game at 7 p.m. a lime out for everyone to come in support of Stigma Free. Come
What
to the
time, Jay?
game. That's at 7 p.m. February 13th at the high school. And so wear something lime green in support of recognizing that we want to.
Not
Certainly
really.
not lime.
Lime green. That's the color of Stigma Free. We are trying to make sure that people know that there should be no stigmatizing people with emotional or mental health issues. And so there will be booths set up there by the committee, and that will be some of the theme. The team they're playing, which I'm drawing blank on right now, also has Stigma Free at their high school. We're forming a Stigma Free committee at our high school.
That's great.
So that's my report.
Just to follow up on your North Summit Street, the two-family house.
Yes.
Excuse me, the two apartments and the office. You know, a lot of conversation around that was on parking, you know, where the parking would fit, how wide the driveway would be. I know there's been a couple of different projects, one or two on Washington Street that didn't go forward because of parking issues. And I think perhaps in the near future, we put something on the work session where the council wants to consider having resident-only parking, overnight parking in some of our parking lots next to the post office or on North Summit in that area, to think about whether that will help the planning board push some projects further along that right now might not be possible because there is no off-street parking except for parking lots. Something to think about.
May want the police department to weigh in on that.
We would want the police department to weigh in on that, but resident only.
And the commuters maybe, who, you know.
Well, the commuters are a different, I'm talking about overnight for residents only.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my husband took the bus this morning at 5 a.m., so if that lot is filled, then he can't get there.
It's an issue, right? No, it's something to think about though. Adam,
We had a good chamber meeting, Chamber of Commerce last week. Good turnout, good, two good sessions on senior move and tablescaping. If you don't know what that is, please come to me afterwards, learn about tablescaping. What was very important that we discussed and we got good feedback from business owners, and it's something that I believe the mayor is going to talk about in his remarks, is municipal public parking signs, which we actually have that we're going to actually put up like yesterday. We spoke about particular areas and got feedback from the businesses on what might be helpful. But these are those green and white signs, really critical, really easy because we actually have them. So we're going to put them up this week, get it done, quick wins, what we need for our downtown. So how's that? So thank you for Christine for leading our chamber.
Did
Is that-
finance meet?
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to know if finance met.
Vinu.
Oh, wait, your downtown development?
Yeah, yeah.
Did
some
they meet
downtown.
yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay,
I know.
so speaking of finance, there was a meeting early, last week. The mayor and attended, Adam attended, Councilman Michaels attended as well. And it was just an introductory, and getting to meet a couple of the other members and kind of introducing them to the world of municipal finance. So there's another, we're in the process of getting a chair and, getting it all together. And then having a follow-up meeting sometime soon. There was also a meeting of the senior center board, and the mayor again attended to, that one. And on either of these, if you have any additional comments, please do. There was some old business where they talked about the different events that they have for 2020, all sold out. Everything's great. They had a New Year's party on December 30th. That was great. So everything there is great with the events. They have a men's cooking class that they're putting together for Thursdays, because they wanted to see about bringing in a greater number of men into the membership. They realize, or they feel that it's not high enough. In new business, they talked about the Bergen County Care Fair, where they were considering setting up a table. That'll be on May 3rd at Fairleigh Dickinson from 12 to 4. So anybody interested, feel free. And then there was a discussion that started about about restructuring the Board of Trustees. It's now currently a 10-member Board of Trustees. They're exploring, reducing the size or, changing the composition. So there was a discussion about that. And finally, there's a Meet the Mayor event that is going to be on February 5th. And you don't have to be a senior to attend. You can be anybody.
It's at the senior center?
So it's at the senior center at 1:30, February 5th.
Wow.
So it is an open meeting.
How cool would it be to meet the mayor?
Wonderful.
That's my family.
What time is that?
February 5th at 1:30.
Is that it, Vinod?
And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, mayor's remarks. So, Omar, I'm gonna make 4 appointments right now through this. Deborah Davidson, she's a director to TNC as a liaison to the environmental committee. We've got Brinker Shepherd to the Northern Valley Greenway. I'll give you this. Belinda Pastana to finance. And Michelle Ross, that's 1L, Ross to downtown development. All right. Councilman, go ahead.
I was gonna say, did there was somebody else for downtown development or finance? Did they ever?
Not for tonight. Not for tonight. So, municipal parking signs, we're hoping to get up this week. We found them. Where did we find them, Christine? Christine found them, I think.
No, I didn't find them, you found them.
I found them.
The
The
recycling center?
DPW flood room.
In the room.
Obviously,
Yeah, in
that's
the
exactly
basement
what
of the
I-
recycling center. When we had a meeting of all the when we were, 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with all the employees, and so I brought it up at the DPW meeting with 25 people in the room, and one of the gentlemen was like, I know where that is. So it worked out nicely.
Thank you.
And Julie O'Connor for the Board of Health Liaison,
Yes.
right?
And
And
environmental.
environmental.
And environmental also. I have a second one on there too.
And,
Okay.
and you
And
swim?
and the swim club.
You spoke
And you're
to
the swim
this.
club also?
You,
That's right, and she's the swim club also. It's a good thing she's here tonight. Okay. We talked about the dog park, February 8th, soft opening. Another thing I'm gonna do, start something new, is like mayor's town hall meeting, open to the public on a Saturday. I'll probably do one in April. Hopefully I'll pick out a date this week to get it into this newsletter. And then we'll figure out further advertising to the public, where we'll do a town hall whatever, 11 o'clock or noon on a Saturday for the residents to come in, and we'll advertise the meeting, but it won't be a meeting, and then I'll just sit there and answer questions and talk about what's going on, and we'll see if people show up.
What time is the dog park on the 8th?
Dawn.
You don't know yet.
The committee
When they
You
open
can
it.
ask the
3
committee,
o'clock.
yeah, the committee will,
The committee chose 3 o'clock.
Like noonish?
yeah, well, there's some, the committee has to decide on some, rules. It's basically open from dawn to dusk, that sort of thing.
Dan, we had the meeting. Dan, is Dan
So,
here?
okay, good, Dan
He
stepped
just,
away.
he stepped
Okay,
away.
because we
Okay.
decided on 3 o'clock.
Okay. 3 o'clock to open the dog park? Why?
I have no idea, but that's what
Clearly
they
not.
voted. I was 2 to
Perhaps,
1.
maybe, I would recommend meeting again just to revisit that and do it earlier in the day.
How about dawn?
Yeah,
Turn it on.
exactly. It's gonna stay unlocked, so. Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn? Oh,
One
what?
more-
Whoa,
Wait,
closed
wait, wait,
session.
wait, wait.
Oh, we're gonna
Wait.
close session.
If you wouldn't mind, the Lunar New Year. The Lunar New Year celebration.
Oh, yes, so on Saturday, when we were dealing with some flooding issues, there was also the Lunar New Year celebration at Baum School, and thrown by the KPA, and several of us were over there. There must have been 800 people in that
What do you
auditorium.
think when you were there?
Had to be
I mean,
800 people.
Maximum.
It was packed.
It was
wall to wall.
packed with food, shows, all kinds of fun stuff. And so it was very enjoyable.
They rotate.
Yeah,
They rotate.
very
So,
enjoyable event.
Happy New Year. to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah,
Mom is
Happy
not
New
the
Year to
school.
everyone.
Mom is definitely not the school to do
Too
that.
tired.
Yeah, we should definitely look into a
Not too
larger
long.
facility for next year. We should recommend maybe the middle or high school.
Yeah. for
These
their
elementaries are
event.
just too small.
Yeah, they're too small. It was pretty crowded, but it was great. You know, the one thing about being crowded, it's packed, it's fun.
It was.
Robert Kennedy.
Robert Kennedy, exactly. Okay, so can I get a,
I'll read the.
don't you know the story? You know the
It's a
story, right?
great story.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll tell that story offline. Okay, can I have a motion to go into
I'll
closed
do it.
session? Bill,
Yep.
can you read that?
Resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, Mayor and Council will go to close executive session, discuss the following matters. We have some attorney-client privilege matters,
Please lunch.
one involving the swim club lease,
3 o'clock.
another one involving litigation that we're involved in, that's under amendment to verified complaint.
I know she said it's all